Hello everyone! So, full disclosure, this video will not really be providing much in the way of new stuff about Christopher Wensink, known online as Kayden Monroe, and his girlfriend Blaze the Weirdo, but the ending parts will definitely be going into stuff I haven't talked about yet, as well as some sprinkles throughout the video. This video is for easy access to comprehensive information regarding Christopher and Blaze's actions that can also be shared around easily, and I will be repeating many of the stories I've told of their actions in previous videos. Due to information I've heard recently of both Chris and Blaze attempting to camp out in streamer Discord servers and worm their way into different online spheres, I'm specifically making this with the hope of reaching the voice acting and VTuber communities, and ask that if you're someone from those communities watching this, that you please share this video. I do not want this man to be able to run freely in different spaces to build connections and a name for himself away from what he's done and refuses to own up to you without caveat, as I believe that the way Christopher has attempted to use his online platform until even just recently is harmful and extremely disingenuous. So, for context, allow me to give a quick recap of my time online when I was younger. I started my YouTube channel, the one that you're on right now, in mid-2017 when I was 14 years old. I specifically popped up as a new commentator and eventual, member of the SCC, Slideshow Commentary Community. And from that time to when I was an adult, my time online was riddled with adult men having sexual conversations with me, sending me porn, sexually harassing me, and straight up preying on me. I detail a lot of this in my Hiten video and also my Avi video, particularly over the worst offenders who were V Omega and Avraham. But basically, I was desensitized to sexual content as a minor, even by those men who didn't abjectly prey on me, and was essentially groomed into entertaining the sexualities of adult men as a 14 to 16-year-old. I stopped doing this with everyone except my ex-boyfriend when I was around 17, and instead told them to stop. And that's when I learned very quickly that no meant yes, and stop meant keep going. One of the men who taught me this was Kayden Monroe, Christopher, who was 26 when I met him, wherein the gist is basically that he would post or say inappropriate or even explicit things in front of me, often as a joke. Gotta make sure I really highlight that this time. A lot of this happened in my friend Ponder Sprocket's old server. Mind you, this was not an 18+ server, and porn was specifically banned. There was even an inside joke about an incident that occurred one time when Ponder accidentally posted a pornographic version of an art piece that she liked. Thankfully, I was taking a nap while this happened, and she deleted it way before I ever woke up. So the joke was, oh, she's so lucky that Chuuli was asleep, and also, wow, what a dumbass. However, Ponder was also very much not a present friend online back in those days, and has even talked about that on her channel before. It was very common for her to not be on Discord from days to weeks at a time, with brief appearances in between. This meant that Ponder wasn't there a lot of the time that I was around Christopher, which led to a lot of these incidents. Chris was no stranger to sharing images that he found sexually enticing, including this instance where he posted a silver fox pinup for no fucking reason, and then linked the gallery when another member of the server, who was freshly 18 at the time, so I'm not showing their name, expressed interest. There were also multiple instances of him posting gifs of dildos that were supposed to be funny because, haha, porn! This was actually one of the only times I got him to take down something or stop, because Ponder was there for one of them. We were in a call when he posted a gif of a giant dildo stuck on the wall of like a school basketball court with someone whacking it with a broom. And when I asked him to take it down because it made me uncomfortable, he denied that request because they weren't sexual because, quote, they're not real dicks. Even now, this logic makes me want to die, because no, Christopher, they're not real dicks. They're just exact replicas called sex toys. Thankfully, as I said, Ponder was there and reaffirmed no sexual imagery, and when he hit her with the same dumbass logic, she barked at him and made him take it down. Something else that happened when I was either 14 or 15, when Chris was 26, which I don't really have any concrete proof for because it was in a call like 7 years ago, was that he was detailing something about BDSM that he liked that had to do with the lack of control in a sexual partner, probably bondage, which Chris likes. And I made the ignorant comment at the time of either that's rape or that's rape. be because it made me uncomfortable. Christopher, instead of realizing that he should not be detailing his BDSM kinks in front of a freshman in high school, flew off the handle about how I was calling him a rapist and decided that I needed to be educated on the topic and shared with me this table detailing the differences between BDSM and abuse, which I recall him saying was one of his favorite images. The last big thing with proof happened on a Ponder Sprocket stream. Something of note is that back in those days, Ponder was very heavy on the use of weed and basically streamed exclusively while high, so keep that in mind. Basically, I complimented her on the stream, my friend, and Chris decided to make the statement that I was, quote, sucking her dick in front of the audience, and repeated that statement several times when I was telling him to stop saying that. When I started going in on him because of this, he then muted me on his end in the call before joking that I didn't have the balls to confront him. Kill me. Now I know I said I have proof for this, and I do, but I'm not going to plaster something that humiliating and demoralizing to the whole of YouTube. You shouldn't worry though, as the clip is played in both of the calls in this video, though redacted, and the contents within are very clearly discussed and corroborated by several people. This has actually been a huge point of contention from Chris and Blaze, as we'll get into much later, with Chris feeling like I made him look worse, and also Blaze claiming that I'm playing favorites because I did not mention Ponder's name when I first spoke of this publicly. Funnily enough, me not posting the clip was inadvertently doing Chris a favor, as everyone who has heard it has been made extremely uncomfortable, with some even saying that it makes him look worse than how I portrayed him. As far as things go with Ponder, they're really just mad that I'm not angry at the person they want me to be angry at, and I'm not holding her to the same fire that I held Christopher, which just like, no. Ponder was intoxicated, she was inebriated, and she was one of the people implicated in the joke, which also made her uncomfortable, and yet still stepped in to diffuse things. Why are you so focused on how she handled your joke that made her uncomfortable, essentially being mad that the other person you just grossed out didn't tell you authoritatively enough, when you should have had the good sense not to make that joke in the first place, nor continue with it when the child told you to stop? I definitely grew apart from Christopher at this point and was also forced to deal with the goddamn 2020 panorama, and I've since learned that my brain took that time to try and erase the memories of all these horrible things that happened to me to protect me. Because it wasn't until August of 2023 that I began looking into things that happened to me when I was underaged in these online spheres. Because it was the time of when I, Clown Teeth, and Ponder Sprocket were looking into making a video detailing our history of abuse and manipulation from a long since disgraced creator by the name of Feghost. The story of Liam Curry, Feghost, is a long, confusing, batshit insane story that we are, for once, not getting into right now. However, at the time when we were in the middle of making that video, I started going back to these experiences as a means to explain why what Liam did to me had such an abusive, traumatic effect, which is a really sick and gross thing to have to do thinking back on it, but it's what I felt I had to do. As that video kind of fell by the wayside, the talk of these experiences shifted into the script I was writing for my Hiten video, which started in late April of 2024. At that time, I continued looking into my DMs with someone by the name of V Omega, whose legal name I unfortunately don't know, one of the men who groomed me when I was 15 and he was 19, and very explicitly sent me pornography on multiple occasions. When I looked over a conversation I had with V about his sexual preferences, I mentioned that I also knew the sexual preferences of several others in the community, and I mentioned Kayden, Chris, by name. I knew there was more to it than that, and that I had a lot of vague negative feelings associated with Chris from when I knew him, but I didn't think I had anything solid to go off of besides that breadcrumb. And I didn't want to cause drama over it, so I initially planned to never mention Chris in my video on Hiten and just let it slip by. However, on May 20th of last year, almost exactly a year ago, I went into the DMs of a friend I vented to a lot back in the day, and found instances of me venting about being sexually harassed by Chris on those multiple occasions. Not gonna lie, when I did find that, I completely panicked and ran to Ponder and my friend Clown Teeth to let them know what I had found. I got into a call with Ponder where I detailed everything, and I just remember crying that entire call. I don't know how to describe it, but there's such a visceral pain and anxiety that you get when you find confirmation that very bad things that your brain tried to make you forget in order to protect yourself, that they really did happen and that you aren't crazy. Ponder helped me set up a confrontation call with Christopher, and that took place on May 28th, 2024. Before I play it, I don't apologize for this, but I definitely am very emotional by the end of the call, so just be prepared. Anyway, here it is.
So we were just going over, Kayden originally thought that this was about him blocking you on Twitter. I've told him, no, that I conveyed to you, I didn't think that there was anything malicious in that, and it was probably just a matter of, like, the timing of when the things that you were tweeting out were being tweeted, and I was right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, actually, if that was, like, if that correlated with any recent events.
It did. Look, I don't know if you guys follow what's happened to me this year. I started this year by having a man with 30,000 followers on Twitch systematically going after me, my friends, and my friend's now current girlfriend to the point where it was basically about to ruin, like, so many lives. And, like, I'm still feeling like it wasn't until, like, this past weekend when I took a break away from town did I really just finally get, like, good sleep. So, like, I've just been stressed all year as it is, so that was the major reason why I was doing all that stuff, the blocking. But I do wonder why we're here right now, though.
I can give a bit of an explanation, Chuuli, or do you want to?
I think it would be better if you did. Personally.
Okay, so Chuuli has been going over some of the past behavior of individuals within the community, specifically based on, like, vague memories that she had. And for a lot of what she thought she remembered, she didn't think that she had like, proof or records of it happening. And she recently came to understand that she does have records of some stuff that she, for a while, was questioning whether it happened the way she remembered. And we wanted to ask your perspective on it, because it is a little concerning.
Okay.
I don't know how to really start this. So I think most people here know that when I joined as a content creator, I was very young. I was 14 when I started, and it wasn't until the end of 2020 that I actually became an adult. And I have a lot of memories from those 4 years. And I knew of certain things that had happened to me, certain men that did things like V Omega, who very, very explicitly sent me porn that he drew multiple times. And also, I can't even keep track of who all did things.
It was, what, girlfriend at the time? Boyfriend?
And then his partner at the time. And then
Digby and Riz?
TP?
Raz, Blue Raz.
No, Raz. No, Digby.
Digby. I was about to say, TP, what the fuck?
No, not TP.
I would never imagine TP doing something as malicious as something like that.
And I'm just going to put it bluntly, ever since we grew distant after I became an adult, so like 2022 and onward, I have had very vague negative memories of you, where I knew that you left a negative impression on me in a concerning way, but I could not remember exactly what happened. And the most I had for a long time, because I didn't think I had anything, was one of the times when V Omega sent me porn. We ended up going into conversation about his sexual preferences. I was a 15-year-old, mind you.
Okay.
And I threw out very innocently, because I was 15, I didn't know how damning it was for me to have this knowledge at the time. I very innocently threw out that I knew yours. And that was the crumb of evidence that I had, that you had talked about things in front of me that you should not have talked about.
Fair.
But that's all I thought I had. And I went recently. I went into DMs and I found an instance where I came to her very upset it was October of 2019 when I was just about to turn 17.
Okay.
And I relayed to her an instance that had happened that night where you essentially verbally sexually harassed me in a call after my repeated attempts to ask you to stop. And in that same upset tangent that I went on in her DMs, I found that I had talked about 4 other instances where that had happened. One of them being in a Ponder Sprocket stream while she was high, and I went looking for dates of her streams that happened around that time, and the event that I talked about happening did happen. I complained to her that you, as a 27-year-old man, I think at that time, kept making jokes about me, a 15-year-old, sucking on Ponder's dick live in front of everyone. And I told you that made me uncomfortable. And you did it again. Mm-hmm. And then I told you to stop. And you made a joke out of it again. And then when I got very obviously heated after that point, you muted me in the call and then joked about how I didn't have the balls to confront you. And after that happened, I, again, innocently, because I didn't realize just how bad all of this was, I opened another server and talked about how the first thing I saw was someone being sexual. And you, and I think it was Fagos, also in the call, and also I don't think knew how old I was, made a joke out of it and talked about how it was like what I signed up for when I got on Discord. And so that is the most concrete proof I have of an event. And I remember in another instance, because again, it was 4 instances that you did this to me, that I, at the very least, I documented, where you started posting GIFs of dildos, and what? I told you to stop, and you didn't, and you defended it by saying that it wasn't sexual because they weren't real dicks. And that was the one time that you backed down, because Ponder was in that call and she told you to stop and you listened to her. But I feel the need to accentuate that every time I begged for you to stop being sexual in front of me and posting sexual things and talking about sexual things, you did not stop.
I'm not saying this to be malicious. I am not saying this. This is a lot to take in, mind you. I would like to see the proof, if you do have it. If you have it, I'll accept all responsibility and apologize here right now. It does sound like my behavior to joke about something, not stopping it for a period of time until someone authoritative told me to stop. I think, and you don't have to take my word on this one, and I'm not saying you have to take my word on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
B can tell you up front, and you still want to be referred to as B, if I'm correct.
I'm fine with either.
Yeah.
I hope that link still works.
I think
It's on video unavailable. Video
okay.
private. Video is
Then
private. You need to unlist it.
Yes, I can actually maybe go directly in and I can share screen.
The only thing I would say is whenever I said the state, it's like I have a lot of euphemisms in my vocabulary, and some of those euphemisms are thankfully very much dead. Okay, that worked.
Okay. Can everyone see the video?
Yes.
All right, let me know when you're ready for me to play.
Now, this is an explanation, not an excuse. And Ponder can back me up on this. It's been an issue I've had since, it seems, since childhood. Now, when I say stuff like that, I was insinuating in the sense of you were kissing up.
Okay, but that's not what you said.
I know that's not what I said.
Yes, and that is the problem.
I'm just explaining.
Okay. I understood what you meant by the innuendo, but the innuendo was still sexually charged at me, and when I told you to stop, you didn't stop.
That is where I was getting to the actual explanation.
Okay.
So, I have many disabilities that I have been learning that I am on the spectrum of. And again, not an excuse, an explanation. And you don't have to accept it. And if you don't want to be friends and you don't want to talk to me again about all this stuff, that is completely fair. And you have all the right in the world to not. I have issues understanding social cues to an extreme extent in several points. What I was getting what I was taking in at that moment, which looking back at, I am kicking myself in the ass because it's clear as fucking day, that this is all everybody joking, because I was going off of the vibe or whatever you want to call it, the feeling or whatever you want of everybody joking around. Phagos was joking around in the call. Before that entire situation, we were joking around and talking about stuff. Does it make it right? No. Do you deserve an apology? Yes. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because so you understand. That is all. I am not using it as a shield. I am not using it as a, you can't touch me because blank. I am saying it in the sense of you have the full right to not only distrust me, but dislike me, and I'd go all the way to say hate me if you feel that is needed. I want to make it very, 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 very clear. I in no way was trying to make advances towards you. I in no way was trying to... What's a good word for this? Because I'm drawing a blank. I'm tired. I am in no way infatuated with you. I am in no way trying to coerce you. I am in no way trying to groom you or anything of that nature. Was my wording wrong? Yes. Should I have stopped? Absolutely. But my intentions were to joke around, not to sexually harass.
Kayden, everyone knew Chuuli was a minor, and if you were trying to be funny, why was it always in a sexual nature?
Because that was my immature joking at the time. We can look at more and we can look at adults that I have made jokes like that about. In fact, I never viewed that phrase as sexual at the time. I am clearly in the wrong, but what I'm saying of the time.
Okay, that doesn't work when my very first response to when you've said that was that is sexual harassment. That doesn't work. I immediately told you, and you didn't listen because you weren't taking me seriously. Even though I was very deadpan and uncomfortable when I did tell you to stop, you didn't listen. You didn't value that from me. And I know that it wasn't just humor. It was sexual humor. I know that you viewed it as raunchy and sexual, and I am wanting to just reiterate that.
Yeah. I'm listening.
I shouldn't have to come at you with any tone about that stuff because you shouldn't have been talking to me like that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I told you to stop, you didn't stop. And the only time you did was when another adult told you to stop, whose opinion you respected.
And that's fair.
You can close the stream, B.
Yeah.
And I have the screenshots from when I came to very angry.
No, I'll take your word on it. No,
okay.
I don't need evidence for every single thing. It's just my memory can be foggy at times.
Okay.
And this happened at what, 2018, 2019?
Yes.
Enough time for me to have other things be thrusted upon my plate since then. And I'm, again, not using that as an excuse. I'm using that as an explanation on why I may have forgotten. And you have the full right to be upset. You're right. What I said was inappropriate. I am in the wrong. I view myself as a changed person since then. That is all I can say, but that is my word against yours. Well, that's not a good phrase. You know what I mean. That's my words, not my actions, and you'd have to see my actions to see if it's true.
I obviously can't say that that's true or false. But the fact that it happened at all, I think is already many steps way too far. Because had it just been you were mean to me or you talked down to me or whatever, that would be okay, I understand that. But to repeatedly ignore my sexual boundaries, I don't really care if it was out of infatuation. I could tell that you didn't care about what I was comfortable with or not. And for you to not care about that in regards to a sexual boundary of a minor, a teenage girl, that is many, many steps way too far, in my opinion. And for that to happen multiple times, and not quietly, not me just laying down and taking it. I fought you. I didn't win, but I fought you. I feel like that's not something that just a private sorry can fix.
If I can step in with some contextual clarification. Kayden, before we got into the call with Chuuli and Clown, you clarified that some of Chuli's overt aggressiveness was what led to you blocking them on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we've traced back some of the aggression, and we've sort of come to the understanding that it may have specifically been as a result of instances like this, not just with you, but with, like I mentioned earlier, Digby, Raz, V Omega, fucking Faye Ghost, his girlfriend, whatever the hell her name was, where people constantly disrespected boundaries that Chuuli set up with regards to sexual inferences, sexual nature, sexual jokes, quote unquote, or sexual content. And the only way that Chuuli was able to shut down those conversations was to start to get aggressive. Because that was the only instance where people started to take them seriously. Or at the very least, that was the only way that they started to back down. So, in the present day, a lot of Chuli's aggression may specifically have been the result of behavior like this that was inflicted upon them when they were a minor and the constant violation of their boundaries.
For more context, when people, adult men, started being sexual with me when I was a 14 and 15-year-old, I didn't have that boundary yet. I didn't know how to stop that. And so I believe, after thinking about this for a long time, I believe I was, oh yeah, that person. I don't even think it was by one specific person. I believe that you are included in that group, because even though you didn't, according to you, mean to groom or do anything to sexually benefit you, I was still groomed by several adults into believing that my role whenever they became sexual was to entertain that, including you.
Okay, I have to challenge that. I'm trying to be as understanding and accepting of my role in a lot of this.
Yes.
But there is a moment I have to step in and say I can't take responsibility for their actions.
Kayden, I'm not asking you to take responsibility for others' actions. I'm asking you to take responsibility for the part you played in a group effort.
It may not have been like a coordinated thing, but when there are like multiple different people sort of doing similar, not necessarily the same things, but similar things to an individual, to that individual, it would feel like, especially in the past tense, it would feel like this was like a lot of people all working towards the same goal. Maybe not like maliciously, maybe not in a coordinated effort, but like the behavior was similar enough that there's a correlation. or maybe not a correlation, but it's similar.
You're one of
The things I'll take responsibility on, and I'm saying this right now, and I'm trying to be as fair as possible, is not respecting your boundaries, is not respecting you as a person in the sense of your requests, and not respecting any authority that you clearly deserved based off of the fact of who you were as not only a minor, but as how do I say this? Not gendered, but in a sense of, because I don't want to I don't want to assume anything of your current gender of or whatever, but of your position of what you were assigned at birth, I am assuming. Because I don't know what the situation is. We have lost touch to the point where we're clearly no longer talking. The thing that I will not... What I'm basically saying is I take responsibility for my actions and my actions alone. And what others may have interpreted from that one is on them. I fucked up.
What do you mean by that?
If they inferred, oh, this is okay from me trying to be a jokey edgelord at the age of 27, which is something as cringeworthy as a statement as a jokey edgelord at the age of 27, is not solely on me. That is also on them, and I do not take responsibility for something of what they would do in that entire ethos.
I should clarify, I don't think there were instances where other people who were around and who saw your behavior looked at it and thought that it was okay. I think that those specific people were probably already going to do it. However, I would like to point out that in instances where someone is going to go after a vulnerable party and they already see instances where someone is violating a person's boundaries and it's not really being, like, those boundaries are not really being respected, that does sort of indicate to them, oh, this is a potential target. So that may not have been the case with people like Raz or Carmen or Digby, but V Omega was in our circle for a while. Faye Ghost was in our circle for a while, both of whom victimized Chuuli. And if they got it in their head that Chuuli was a potential target because they did see Chuli's boundaries being violated and it, you know, sort of played off in a joking manner, that would be an issue. They would still be responsible for their own actions in choosing to victimize someone, but you can't really downplay that, like, your behavior would have indicated Chuuli as a potential target.
I'm accepting that part.
Okay.
Everything else outside of that,
everything
the stuff that I am taking responsibility for. Like, I accept that I made that environment inadvertently, and I am responsible for making that environment, and I am in the wrong for making that environment. But I am not going to take responsibility of Phagos being a scumbag fucking piece of shit.
That's fine.
Is all I'm saying.
We're not asking you to.
I never.
No, I'm saying I'm shaking right now because it's a lot.
It's okay.
A lot to take in. Because, like, you're not used to hearing how bad you fuck up until it's too late, and then whenever it's too late, it's, to be fair, usually would be a lot louder than what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
I understand that, but that is not what happened here. You were told that you were fucking up in the moment.
I think he more means that, like,
you don't realize that until it's too late.
Yeah, he doesn't. He didn't understand
that,
the full context of, like,
which
how
is
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's more a matter of like he didn't understand the full context of how that comes together, like when all the pieces are put together rather than individual instances where it's just like, oh, you were being inappropriate, oh, you need to stop.
Yeah.
I understand that. I don't even think this is necessarily what you were saying, B, but I understand that, like, context puts things into perspective. Because what I originally was saying was that I didn't have those boundaries because I was groomed by a environment full of adult men who taught me that I was supposed to entertain their sexuality. Until I was like halfway done with 16, in which case I finally started saying stop. And I wasn't listened to. By any men. You are not the sole man who did that. Every single man I asked to stop took it further when I said stop. Stop meant keep going. Including with you. That is what it meant to you. But at the same time, without the added context of what everyone else was doing to me. What you did on its own, in a vacuum, was still horrible. And I'm gonna, hold on one second. My big point is that this isn't just a minor fuck up, you know? This is something that happened to me when I was a 16-year-old and 15-year-old and has stuck with me to where I am now halfway through 22, and I am now only recently finding evidence of why I felt so terrible in regards to a lot of the community and why I've had such a disdain in my memories with you.
That's fair. I won't go into detail, and I'm not going to make this a pity party, but I will say in a simple statement, I understand the exact feeling of having traumatizing experiences washed into your brain and being regurgitated in your 20s. So I can't fault you for feeling this and anything of that matter. And I am not going to excuse, well, I went through, no, there's no excuses here. I want to make this absolutely clear on my end. All I'm giving is explanations, zero excuses.
Okay. Tell me this, do you understand that you weren't just being a jokester edgelord at the age of 27, 28? You understand that that's not what happened? Because if that happened, this would be a different story. But do you understand that?
Understanding it now or understanding it then?
No.
No.
I understand now.
Mm-hmm.
I was being an irresponsible adult. I was being a immature, I wouldn't say deceptive. I don't know why it's ringing in my head. It's just, I understand it now.
Okay.
That is what I'm trying to say. I understand it now. I understand also you deserve more than an apology. I understand that saying I'm sorry is not enough.
Are you?
And I understand.
Are you around anyone who's a minor?
No, I have made it an absolute mission in my life to stay away from minors. Until I am a parent in an appropriate situation. And at that point, it would be these entire phrases would be completely removed from my vernacular.
Okay.
But I have made it a goal to try to stay around adults. And if I'm ever around minors, my mouth is completely zipped. I am observing and staying the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel comfortable around interacting with minors in an online space. I've learned that from the 2010s. And I have made it an effort to, going back to the situation I was saying in January, where even whenever I was invited to a space like that, my experiences only tried to stay around adults my age or in their 20s, i.e. they're like 22, 23.
Okay. I'm thinking of how to transition into this next part. Oh, I don't know how much you've been keeping on what's been going on with like the SCC or whatever.
I've stayed mostly out of it.
The FCK.
I do know about that, though.
Okay. You know some of the adults that were in there.
Yes. I know everything post everything that happened in April. Beforehand, literally didn't even know that was a thing.
Okay. You saw what happened to the adults that were in there, right? How they were their
Yes.
transgressions were handled.
For the most part.
Okay. Just for total crystal clear clarification, Junkie was pulled onto a stream, eviscerated, and deleted his platforms. Susie just recently left the stream, or her platforms, because of what she allowed and how she talked about it. I can't remember any other ones. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think ZZ and Toasty are mostly just ignoring what happened, and Fuchsia I think took a hiatus. But I didn't want you to get pulled into a public space and yelled at and like just destroyed publicly. But I do think that just as what happened in that server, I feel like people deserve to know what happened.
In what way?
I feel like people in your immediate circle should know of the things that you did to a 15-year-old, to a 16-year-old, while you were 27, 28. You weren't a young adult. You weren't a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old. You were almost 30.
Okay.
And honestly, I have not even decided what I want to do with this information, because in my script for the video that I'm working on, I do talk about how I was sexually demeaned and exploited by adult men in this space. For context, as why Faghost hurt me so bad. And at that time, all I thought I had when I wrote it was me mentioning that I knew your sexual preferences as a 15-year-old. And I didn't think that was enough. I didn't know what to do with that, because that would have been hard for me to come forward about that, because other people, Digby, Raz,
the Omega. They're already gone. They're already hated, and I have evidence for what they did to me.
I'm
so
not
that's
denying that.
that's not going to be like a big shock reveal. People still like you, and you have your little platform, and I thought I didn't have enough evidence of what happened, but it turns out that I had, I think, almost even more than I did with the other people. And there was a lot more that happened between us than what happened between those other people, minus Phagos and the Omega. And I was going to talk about them. And I was going to leave your name silent because I didn't think I had enough, and I didn't want to cause drama with just that one little crumb that I had. I still don't know what to do now that I have way more. And
sorry, if I could step in.
yeah,
Chuuli and I assume with Clown as well, have discussed
oh
this.
yes,
And one of the big concerns that Chuuli has is that even if she did decide to come forward with what she experienced, she would receive backlash for that. And technically speaking, we do have a precedent for that happening because that is exactly what happened with the Phagos situation. That is exactly what we expected to happen with the Phagos situation. Was, someone who had been hurt and was coming forward about how they were hurt was then vilified by the community to a disappointing degree. Now, one of the things that we discussed is that we don't think that you were being malicious, which is very different to people like the Omega, who had like a pattern of grooming people specifically in Chuli's camp, and then Phagos, who was just like malicious behind the scenes for years.
Yeah, I know. I was there for some of that.
So one of the things that we discussed, because Chuuli had expressed to me that there was this worry that you were in circles where like this kind of stuff might still be happening, and because she's not like communicating with you, there's no real way for her to be assured of that. Is we were hoping that you would talk about it, just as a matter of just acknowledging that it has happened, and that, you know, you've mentioned that you've made efforts to make sure that stuff like that is not going to happen again. You acknowledge that it was wrong. You acknowledge that you need to apologize for it, and that you were completely in the wrong and that it was not okay to do. Just, I think it would make Chuuli feel better if there was some sort of open acknowledgement of it, because it would be indicative, like, of a level of growth and of, like, I guess accountability would be the proper term here.
If I do this, I want to make sure it's in my own words.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
And not the account of what happened, but the account of how I viewed it at the time, and the account that I was in the wrong in anything of that nature. I'll record whatever needs to be recorded.
Oh, but that wasn't even what I... Chuuli, would you want Kayden to record a thing for the video? That wasn't even what I was talking about. Would you
just
want
acknowledging
him to
it in
record a thing for the
social
video?
media?
I don't know.
Okay,
if I'm gonna be completely honest, the only thing I can do is acknowledge, if brought up, acknowledge it in the comment section. If recording is too much, and I understand recording would be too much, but the major thing is I have, again, my word against what you see or what you've experienced. Not only have I grown, but I was A, not a part of the FCK, B, not a part of the SCC, and see when I was part of Lio's fucking shitty ass server, I was in there and out like that because I was in there for what happened in January and January alone. I want nothing to do with this shit. I'm shaking just thinking that I'm even a part of this shit. Like, I can't stress to you enough if I need to do something to clear up this situation and take acknowledgement, I'll do it. It's just understand it needs to be in my words, or
Of course it would be.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all.
Can I ask a quick question, since B brought up the aftermath of the Phagos stuff that Chuuli had faced? If I heard this correctly, you blocked Chuuli recently because of aggressions that she was having on Twitter. Did I hear that correctly?
So, I was going with the logic of why I was blocked in 2019. In the whole entire sense of what I thought was being conveyed, it was wrong. What I'm finding out today, I was just wrong. I thought it was being aggressive, being toxic around me, and like vague things like that. I did not know this is what it was.
Well,
And I thought it was just general aggression, general toxicity, and I viewed what happened in April as general aggression, general toxicity.
so
Not.
Do you
Not
know
few-
what she said to me?
I know what she said, and she's in the wrong.
Okay.
okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I viewed that entire situation of I'm not a part of it. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm not a part of it.
I should clarify that we are aware. I think certain people forgot that I was in a certain server at the time, and I could see what was being
Yes.
said. We are aware that you were one of the 2 people who defended Chuuli at the time.
I want to make this clear though. About that specifically alone.
Mm-hmm.
A, no one forgot that you were in the server.
Oh, so people
And-
just openly said that, knowing that I could see it.
Yes.
That's way more disgusting. Thank you. I love that.
Amazing.
Well, the only people that knew were people like me, or people who were staying out of it 100%. People who are, if you've seen that, basically the people who are in the Fiendish Cavern and the people who are in Mary Skeleton War, excluding maybe a handful of people, I don't know their fucking intentions. I was more referring to, like, let's say Blaze is in both servers and she saw that you were in a call with Hiten and then you immediately left that call with Hiten to go to a call with Chuuli.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt, and I'm being transparent here, that was underhanded.
I'm sorry.
What? How?
Because, Ponder, you should know, one of the major triggers for Hiten is purposely going into other servers to specifically talk shit behind her back.
I'm sorry.
Okay. One, if that is the case, I don't understand why Hiten does that to others. 2, I was not shit-talking Hiten behind her back. I jumped into a call to hear Heaton's perspective on why she tweeted what she tweeted.
Okay.
And then I jumped into a call with Chuuli to support Chuuli after Chuuli put out the Phagos video, because clearly she needed it.
Because of what Hiten was tweeting.
Oh, I'm thinking of different fucking times.
What?
I am
What are you
I'm talking about what happened just recently. Not around the time of the Phagos video. Around the time of the Phagos video.
When was this recently?
April.
April? What?
When Chuuli started going off on Hiten nonstop on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
This past April.
Okay.
Is what I'm referring to. Around that time. As for what happened in 2019, 2020, I don't even fucking remember when the Phagos situation
It was 2021.
Thank you.
Do you remember what was being discussed in the call that I jumped out of with Hiten?
No.
Okay.
I'm just seeing bodies moving and correlating items in my head.
Okay, well, for clarification, and this is something that I expressed to Hiten, my trust in her and a good chunk of people in the community was severed when the Twitter thread came out. I distanced myself from a lot of people. I forgot about why I did it, and it took me a long time to remember, why do I feel like a tightness in my chest whenever I'm around these individuals? I expressed this to Hiten. I am trying to open up those doors again, but Hiten is very much aware that I think that she was in the wrong and that she was completely inappropriate in that moment. And I'm allowed to be friends with Chuuli.
I am not here to defend Hiten. I am here showing and trying to get understand. If anything, I have some questions as well about that entire fucking pocket dimension of these past few months, and it was just answered. That's all I needed to hear.
I should also clarify, for the majority of the last few months I have not been on Twitter. I literally don't know the full extent of what Chuuli has been tweeting. I know Chuuli's been talking about Hiten. I do not know the full extent of it. Hiten knows that I'm trying to keep the peace. I'm trying to be friends.
Okay.
But it is a struggle.
I do want to clarify this then. This is my opinion. This was my viewpoint alone. I'm not speaking for Hiten. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm speaking for myself. And what I saw was obviously wrong. And I apologize for making that assumption.
Oh, okay. I had to understand what you meant by that. It took me a second. You're meaning that, like, your perception of things was incorrect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
And I don't know what was happening in those calls, because the majority of the time whenever those calls were happening, it's either I was in the middle of something or I was just trying to stay in my own little Kayden bubble.
You saw that I was in a call with Hiten, and then I jumped into a call with Chuuli, and you assumed that I was shit-talking Hiten in that call with Chuuli because I jumped into that call?
Yeah, that was a pretty bold assertion, saying that it was underhanded when you don't even know what happened.
Like, if I'm trying to be friends with both of them, obviously I'm going to, every once in a while, jump into calls with both of them. And every once in a while, that's gonna be, like, back-to-back sometimes. If I'm in a call with Hiten, and if I'm remembering correctly, I was in a call with multiple people, because every time I'm in a call with Hiten in Skeleton Server, or Married Skeleton War, whatever the hell it's called, I can't remember. It's with multiple people.
Yeah. This is where... Sorry, if you hear a cat in the background, that's all.
It's fine.
This is where my predicament comes in. Explanation, excuse, you get the idea. For the past 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, past 7 years, I have been going from friend group, social circle to friend group, social circle, where that was the pattern of behavior.
Oh, with the shit talking?
Shit talking behind their back and in purpose circles where everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, when I see something that even has a grain that looks like it snaps in my brain that is happening.
I should clarify, we have spoken about Hiten, but it's in the context of Heten's thread and how it made us feel and how we felt that it was inappropriate. We have been,
Yes.
what's the word? Cooing doesn't seem like the right word, but like reassuring one another that like our feelings on the matter were valid. And for additional clarification, when we first came back together and started talking about it, we were not sure, and me in particular, I was not sure that what I was seeing in the thread was what I was seeing. I thought I was being uncharitable. I wasn't sure that I wanted to give Hiten the benefit of the doubt that the victim blaming I saw in the thread was not actually victim blaming. So I started going around to other people within the community, hiding the fact that these tweets came from Hiten, and asking people what they would think about a Twitter thread that contained some of the things that were in that thread. At no point did I say that it was Hiten until I was in a call with Linlin and Aaron recognized exactly who I was talking about. And when he asked me, I was truthful about it because I didn't want to lie. But I was going around asking people their perspective because I wanted to give Hiten the benefit of the doubt and not believe that that thread was quite as bad as it was. And the consensus that I got was not great.
Okay. And I'm sorry for rushing to assertions. I'm sorry for making that assumption this recently. The only thing I could say is, to my experience, is I have dealt with this too many goddamn times that it's just something I immediately go to be protective of myself.
I understand.
I can get that.
Yes.
I have been talking about Hiten in the context of we were all hurt by what Hiten did. It wasn't
therapeutic,
just Chuuli.
in the therapeutic sense, yes.
And Hiten has specified that Chuli's allowed to be mad at her forever. I've been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I can't deny the fact that that thread hurt and it caused harm.
And I'm not here to deny that either.
Yes.
In fact, as you said before, when that happened, I was one of the few people defending Chuuli. I know exactly what happened. And I am not here, and what I'm saying is, during the Phagos situation, I knew exactly what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I had more information than other people had.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why because I was in one of those calls and you all informed me of the false story that he decided to throw at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That does concern me a bit. When Hiten found that Chuuli was making a video, she specifically came to me and asked if I was helping Chuuli make a video shitting on her. Am I to assume that Hiten believes that I am conspiring against her behind the scenes? Because I'll say it right now for clarification, I am the one who decided that Hiten would not be named in our Phagos video.
Okay. And I can't speak for her. That's all I can say. The trust thing in this whole entire miasma of bullshit. If you want my complete honesty, I wish you removed my permission for that server as well, so I don't have to fucking see it anymore. Because there are several moments where it's kind of a circle jerk. No one's... and there are moments where you can point at, like, yeah, that's just them venting what fucked shit happened at a fucking Panera Bread or some bullshit like that.
Well, that's
But
why I
then
stated Hiten. Hiten may talk about how it's triggering for her specifically to know that people are shit talking about her behind the scenes, but that is the type of behavior I would see in that chat when I had access.
Same. And that is one of the reasons why I kind of muted it a majority of the fucking time.
Yeah.
I'm not here denying shit. I'm here agreeing. Like, it's one of the reasons why I'm like, full transparency. While I still consider several people in that server my friends, I have been distancing myself from that server for a new group of friends that I've been having as of late that have been more beneficial for my health, beneficial for my mental stability, and beneficial for my growth. And that is the juxtaposition, I guess, of how I feel about that. So I'm right there with you, is what I'm saying. Like, it's hypocritical on their end.
I'm wondering now, I don't know if this is really relevant to the conversation, but if Hiten is concerned about shit talking to the point where it affects her mental health, I completely understand. And I also understand your stance on going through friend group after friend group because of constant shit talking. I also literally experienced that. I understand all of that. However, when it comes to Heaton's actions, they were extremely harmful, and they were public.
Yeah.
So Chuuli making tweets in a certain fashion that may seem a lot to some people, considering just the impact that her threat had on not only Chuuli but also me and B to an extent. It's hard for me to be like. I can't really think of the proper word, but you understand where I'm coming from. Like, her actions were were public and were extremely aggressive. So Chuuli making her stance known on like the hurt that she faced should not be seen as like taking it too far. This was all public.
I'm not saying that you said this, but like, just for like to clarify where I stand on this, I don't think I should have to watch my tone.
Yes.
With someone who brags about how she'll always be able to outscream anyone.
Yes.
And brags about how people love her aggressive tone. Because when it comes back at her, she got what she put in.
And she obviously, it affected her badly. That's why I think it's kind of ridiculous knowing that she's in a server where she has a vent chat where people literally just talk shit, but yet that's how it affects her mental health. That's not healthy. So,
actually, Chuuli, I apologize that we've sort of overtaken the conversation at this point, but I do want to fill Kayden in on something. Hiten and I got into a call in late 2023 to discuss the thread and my tumultuous trust in her and other members in the community. In that call, as I was, talking about the victim blaming and the tone policing and how inappropriate it was and how damaging it was, Hiten asked, if tone policing is such an issue, why didn't I speak up when Spoctor tone policed her? And I bring this up specifically because I think it sheds a little light. I'm not even sure on what. It's just one of those things that like really stands out. She asked why I didn't speak up when Spoctor tone policed her. Completely. I don't want to say ignoring because that seems malicious, but like not acknowledging that I also directly didn't confront her when she tone policed Chuuli at the time, which had happened literally a month before that. So she put out like a damaging thread that made us question our own victimhood and confirmed a lot of fears that we had, that the community would not believe us if we came forward. Didn't really just contributed to that, and then asked why a month later, after she had done that to us, why I didn't speak up and help her because she was struggling.
Okay.
It's I don't know, it's one of those things that really, I don't even remember most of that call, but it's one thing that really stands out, that Hiten can do so much harm and not acknowledge the extent of the harm that she does, and then still expect you to speak up in her defense. And I'm not saying that this is like a malicious thing. I'm saying it's something I've been a little concerned about. It's one of the things that has made it difficult to trust her. It's one of the things that I am trying so very desperately to get past, I guess, so that I can open the door for trust. But the fact that those experiences are there
makes it hard.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be civil, I'm trying to be nice, I'm trying to give Hiten the benefit of the doubt. But I'm gonna be real, I'm glad that you agree that Chuli's in the right here.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can at least get some agreements on that. It's very much appreciated.
Because, yeah, the only side that I've gotten flack for still being friends with the other side is not this side. Chuli's been really understanding about the fact that I'm trying to keep the peace.
Mm-hmm.
I have a simple rule, and I have said this a billion times over, and I will say it until I'm on my deathbed. If you ever say the statement, it's either me or them, I will choose them every time. Unless, and I will clarify this, it is something clearly heinous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's implied.
Yeah.
Of course.
Chuuli,
Yes.
I can't stress how apologetic I am of my actions in the past. I'm still trying to figure out things about myself to this very day. I'm not asking you to be my friend. I am not asking you to let it go or let it live in the past, because I know that is not how this works. I am just hoping that someday that you and I can reconcile and move on. Not be friends and reconcile, just move forward with our lives.
I don't think I could do that right now. Because essentially right now I'm experiencing it all again with new eyes and perspective on just how bad what was happening to me. Like, just how bad the things that were happening to me, how bad they were. And I would like your cooperation on what would help me through this. Which...
Can you give me 1 second? I need to change headphones.
Okay.
Batteries. Okay, I'm back.
I would like for you to tell your inner circle what happened, because I feel like that's not something that can just be swept under the rug. Especially now that it's seeming that I'm reviving these memories for you if you have them at all, or just making you aware of the fact that they happened. I do want you to say something publicly. I don't know to the extent of how I want that yet. That is something that I'm going to have to think over. I would like that from you. And personally, I would like it if you took some time to yourself, to your friend group, to ideally, but I know it's hard in this country, and I believe in your state, any kind of therapy.
I have.
Okay. I would
I'll bring it up in my next session.
Okay. I would like you to take some time just to yourself, to therapy, to your friends, and just kind of, I don't know, sit with the knowledge of what happened to fully understand over the course of some time, to help let it marinate for you, as I'm trying to do for me. Because I don't think I want you to just continue on publicly like nothing happened. I don't think that would do me any favors. Or you, I think you would benefit from taking some time away from the public to sit with these new revelations of the things that you did and better yourself from them.
I'll do the best that I can. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That's a lot.
I understand, but what happened to me was a lot. And I didn't ask for that.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever I think it through and come to an understanding of what I believe would make me feel the best going forward between us, I will either, I will probably ask B to get back to you on it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna leave. I don't know if we've said everything we needed to say. If anyone else has anything else they need to add.
The only thing I can really say is just I hope you understand the severity of your actions.
I do.
And understand where we are coming from on a lot of things and a lot of your opinions of Chuuli, I hope have changed now.
They have.
Good. Because a lot of what my friend has faced has been extremely unfair, and just not appropriate for a long time, and I'm thankful that you understand a lot of things, so yeah.
We do appreciate that you have been receptive.
I try my best.
Okay, welcome back to the present. So now that that's done, I want to bring attention to a few things. Firstly, when I made mention of Chris being sexual with me with the jokes he made and stuff he desensitized me to, including my mention of the dildo gift spamming. I also want people to recognize that the stuff Chris brought up about Hiten and the whole jumping between different calls was cleared up to him in that call. And funnily enough, right after scolding Ponder in this call for partaking in triggering behavior against Hiten by fucking talking to me, God forbid, he apparently went into the same drama chat in Heaton's server he had just got done talking shit about to bitch about the call. I shouldn't have to point out how fucking stupid it is that they thought we were openly scheming in a call that Chris could join if he wanted to. Like, if we were gonna scheme, why didn't we just call in DMs where no one could tell what we were doing? Chris and, as we'll see soon, Blaze could have just asked instead of stewing on it. Or if they were really so worried, could have, again, just joined to see what was being talked about. After this call, Christopher informed Blaze and apparently did a shit job because Blaze popped up in Ponder's DMs that day to say that I was accusing Chris of sexual assault, which... Huh? Now granted, Chris did ask Ponder to come in and help explain things to Blaze, and as she'll admit soon enough, the stream clip was played to her in that call. But before we move forward, I just want everyone to take notice of how quickly things got misconstrued into something wildly different, and keep that in your mind as we move forward. Blaze was also apparently worried about how I was going to detail Chris's actions in my video, and asked if she could get a preview of everything before the video came out, so I guess she could make sure it was to her liking. I reluctantly agreed, but then I honestly forgot about it over the coming months, which we'll see didn't actually matter because Blaze admitted to blocking Ponder, which would have kept her from sending the preview anyways. Amazing. She also mentioned worry over this damaging his career in voice acting, and this is something that I thought about trying to mitigate or do damage control for in my video initially. In the published video, I actually briefly mentioned what I thought about typing in regards to that. I basically wanted to be clear that I wasn't trying to destroy Chris's career or say that people needed to stop talking to him, but that I also wasn't saying that people needed to stay supporting Chris or stay friends with him. I ultimately decided that it shouldn't matter though, because I'm tired of trying to convince people that my intentions on coming forward about fucked up things that happened to me are pure. This isn't the shit with Fagos, and I'm not going to cater to people who want to assume malintent, when even if that was the case, shouldn't fucking matter. If I wanted to do this to ruin Chris, slay. So after taking a pretty long break from everything and taking some much needed breaths and also going to VidCon 2024, I got back to work on the Hiten video and released it on September 20th of last year. The video kind of went amazingly. I received an incredible outpouring of support, admiration, and kindness, as well as apologies from several of the people spoken about. Full disclosure, I had no idea how my video was going to be received and planned to hop on a train straight to Anaheim and go to Disneyland basically the moment after the premiere ended. Not only to mitigate how much of the dumb I might have had to deal with was taking up my brain space, but to just fucking enjoy myself after everything. When I got to Disneyland, I heard of a call that had happened in the SCC courthouse, a community resolution server of sorts, involving some people talking about Christopher, but with very few details. And later that night, when I was in line for the fucking Incredicoaster, I saw Chris's apology comment, and it reads as follows.
I want to start off by saying that I am sorry. I am sorry for my actions and the precedents I set around you in the server. I'm sorry for the wordage I used when you were clearly uncomfortable, and I am sorry for not acting my age. This has been tough for me over the time we last talked about this, and I feel like saying I have grown as a person is not enough. So, I plan to make a precedence to make sure that I take what we talked about to heart and to work on what needs to be done. Again, I am sorry.
So, admittedly, not a bad apology on paper, and I had faith that he was going to stick to that. I did notice that he didn't say anything on his actual platforms, which I thought was slightly odd, but I decided to keep it pushing and pay no mind to it while I enjoyed the rest of my night. However, when I came back to the person's place I was staying at that night, I was sent the call that took place in the SCC courthouse. I got this call from Ponder, who was given it by Lio Convoy, who I was told actually wrangled in a few of the people in that call when I was still at Disney. And just real quick, if you want to start telling me about Lio, please save it. I'm not here to play PR defense for Lio, nor am I asking anyone to look past his previous actions, but I am asking for you to recognize that the role he is playing and has played in my situation since the beginning has been one of much appreciated and I would even say needed help and support. And just as his help for me doesn't invalidate criticism against his past actions do not invalidate his help for me, and I ask for us to keep things focused. Anyways, it was that night in bed that I then listened to the entire call and had everything I thought about Christopher's apology shattered. And here it is.
Why are we in trial pit instead of just general discussion?
Privacy.
Oh, I see.
I didn't want us to be in
because the moment I'm done explaining myself, and I'll let you guys explain and do whatever, The moment I'm done explaining myself or answering any questions or anything like that, I'm gonna be honest, I'm leaving the server.
That's
Same.
Okay.
Because this is just not my scene. I'm trying to move on with my life. I'm trying to move forward with my life. No offense to anybody here.
Like, everything that's been occurring here in the past month has been a shit show on my mental health.
Well, my question is, has anybody actually watched the video yet?
I have not.
I have
I
yet
have-
to watch it in full.
Okay. JC, have you watched the video?
I have not gotten around to it myself. No.
Okay. Somebody
I
who
will do
watched
so.
it needs to be in here. At least that section. That way this can actually be discussed. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels and
Okay.
getting nowhere over nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me...
Initially, I first heard about it through Liv earlier this afternoon.
Well, I
I
heard about
know
the
she's-
discussion months ago, so thankfully not new to
Away
me.
from-
The way I was told, and Kayden, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah.
was told that Ponder was going to make you aware when the video was dropping, and she did not.
You were supposed to get a preview of the video before it was released.
We both were.
No, I didn't ask for that. You asked for it specifically, though.
Well, I had her blocked. Like, let's be frank. I'm very much on fucking edge around Ponder as of late.
Why?
Ever
She's-
since the call, I cannot. I don't know. I cannot fucking trust her worth a damn. I
What-
just can't.
What did she do that made this massive breach of trust?
First of all, this was her server,
Yeah.
okay? She did not do her due diligence in her own server before involving minors in it,
All right.
okay? So we were associating with each other the way that we always had.
Mm-hmm.
We were making jokes. One of the jokes being, what was it, babe? I believe it was dick-shaped cookies and waffles?
Yeah, Dick shit. I was talking about a story of whenever I was part of the Reddit Secret Santa, and I brought up that what somebody gifted me from San Francisco was a penis-shaped cake pop, which you could buy off the street, and then it kind of divulged from there of us just talking about penis-shaped pastries like waffles and cookies and stuff like that.
Of course, it was from
Yeah.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in the call you had with Ponder, was Ponder being accusatory or was she just there?
He was explaining the situation.
Okay, then what did Ponder do that means you can't trust her then?
It's more of Blaze felt that I was being thrown under the bus because if you want my honest opinion, after
She dragged you into this group call, and then barely gave. I wasn't there, but by the sounds of it, she barely gave you an opportunity to really say much for yourself.
Okay, but was the call recorded by anybody?
No.
Okay. Here's the thing.
I asked that myself.
Yeah, but of course Ponder hasn't responded to my knowledge yet. Look, I don't know if Kayden was being thrown under the bus or if they were just having a frank discussion. To my knowledge, nobody's made a claim about predation. So if there's a claim that goes out that is incorrect, that's one thing. But if it's just this is a experience,
No, but I don't like.
Go ahead.
I don't like being tagged at work. Like, does she know about this? Does she know about Kayden's actions? Actions of what? Yes, of course I knew. He told me.
so
He was
sorry.
in that call.
Yeah, and that's something
It
that,
made it come off like, does she know about his predation?
trust me,
That was fucked.
I understand. I empathize with that. I had plenty of people telling me that my wife should divorce me because of the Rosa call. Trust me, I get it. This community needs to do better about how we communicate our concerns to each other. The random tagging, which will cause anybody, including my own anxiety to go through the roof, does not help anything. And it means whoever you tag is going to come in immediately wanting to throw hands. So there are better ways to deal with this. Okay?
No, but I don't like the implication of the message itself. Like, was she made aware of this? I think Blaze should be made aware of his actions. Like it was some fucking act of predation. I don't like that.
Hey. I genuinely wasn't aware if you knew about it or not. Okay?
Okay, so you saw the video?
At the very least, the part that concerns you.
Okay. I would like to know what was said. I'm here to clear up any information. I'm not going to make a statement on that video. I'm not going to be making a statement publicly. I'm only going to be making a statement here. And if you guys can forward that statement, I'll even type out a statement if I need to, but it looks like nobody cares that I'm in here. And then after that, I'm leaving the call. I'm leaving the server. Just a heads up. So what was said?
So, in order for me to explain what was said about you, I'll have to slightly give context to something mentioned prior. I'm gonna get screenshots to what I can.
Okay.
It was a bit of a lengthy segment, so it may take me just a bit. But Chuuli opened up about their experiences with V, and provided screenshots for that. And the reason you were brought up is because you were mentioned in a message Chuuli sent to V. And Chuuli brought up how you would talk sexually to them when they were apparently 15.
I never once messaged them sexually. The only thing I did was I made sexual jokes around Chuuli. In fact, in our DMs, we never discussed about anything sex-wise at all. So to say that I was sexual around Chuuli, if sexual around and sexual towards are two different animals. I was never sexual towards Chuuli. I knew they were a minor. I never even imagined that. I was also in a relationship with Blaze. So sexual towards, I think the only people I've ever been jokingly sexual towards is Silver, who is reciprocated. Avi, who is reciprocated, and that's it. Excluding Blaze.
Did Chuuli provide screenshots of this?
That's the thing. There is no screenshots of DMs between Kayden and Chuuli. The closest we have is this message I mentioned, and if I remember correctly, Chuuli talking to someone else who is a deleted user. Their name's not mentioned. Where Chuuli and this deleted user are talking about it. And I do have a question.
Yes.
Is it true that there was a confrontation call with you in it?
There was a confrontation call this year. And if you're talking about a confrontation call from a while ago, it was never about these explicit issues. It was about other things. It was about my poor mental attitude. It was about my, me, if I remember correctly, it was about me being aggressive towards Chuuli in an anger sort of way. And me diminishing Chuuli as me diminishing Chuuli in the way that you would do as in oh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you're a child type thing. Yeah. Never in that entire conversation was anything sexually explicit brought up at all, except for the one that happened this year. This year, it was brought up to me that what I was the way I was acting back then was also sexual in nature as well. I will say this, and I will defend this to the day that I lose, until the day I die. It was never sexual towards, it was sexual around. Which is, I never towards Chuuli made anything of that nature. they bring up a factor of, and I remember these screenshots, and I remember the statements from the conversation we had this year of that they know that they don't know how, but they know that I'm a top, which any person who knows me from that time, any person that knows me now, I have made that shit public. I have made that shit very public. I have made that shit. I've said that on my streams. I have said that on my Twitter. I have said that around friends. I have said that in servers. I have never once did it in the sense of, hey, Chuuli, I'm blank. I never went that. If anything, the only thing I could say is the closest, Chuuli called me a bottom, and Chuuli implicated that everybody in the server was a bottom, and then I said, no, I'm a top. That would be the most that I would say is ever towards them.
Yeah, no, because like I remember you were one of like the earliest people I found in this community back when I was like 11, and like after a while I did like pick up on like that type of humor of yours, but like I would not make a case against you because that it's your content. There's so much I can complain about there. It's just I watched it willingly. Like that the onus is not on you for that, but like the point is like, as you've been emphasizing, it's less that it was direct and more so just tangential, I guess. I'm not sure how to explain it. You know more about this.
I will not defend in saying it's appropriate.
Definitely.
I'll say that right now. In hindsight, I should have never fucking said that. In hindsight, there's a lot of things that we should have not done.
Well, in hindsight, that server should have had an NSFW channel at the very least.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not able to send messages in Trial Pit.
Here's the thing. Is anything in the video making any negative claims? Anything that is distorted or twisted that is not based in either their memory or in factual information presented?
Well, that we're gonna have to watch the video to find out, because I honestly don't know. Again, I just got off work and so did Kayden.
I'm gonna be completely frank. I'm not in the mood to watch the video.
It sounds as though Chuuli explicitly had stated that it was sexual toward as opposed to around.
Then she's lying. They are lying.
Well,
She's going to have to provide something for that, because I was not made aware of anything like that. And from the screenshots that she shared in that group call that they were in, yes, she did share screenshots that she mentioned she was going to be putting in the video. So he was made aware of some of these things. I don't know if there was anything else, but if she's adding to it, it's not accurate.
couple of points of order.
One thing
Hold on. Couple of points of order. Is Chuuli a she or a they?
I think it's a they.
Okay.
Probably. I haven't been around her. I haven't been around them or anyone in that community for a while, and I've actually left a bunch of Ponder servers as well.
Let's stay with the they. Now, it is possible they could be lying, or it's possible they could just be wrong. Lies require intent. Intent specifically to deceive. So it's possible they just got it wrong, they misremembered. Memory is a very fickle thing, and human beings can quite literally create false memories. So let's not
Definitely, I would know that.
Let's try, as much as you are angry right now, as much as I understand why, it is best to try to, as we can, operate as much in good faith and be as charitable as possible here. Because I do know this for a fact, Chuuli has been wronged by this community. Chuuli has been victim blamed by this community. So right now, and matter of fact, not just right now, but in general, Chuuli needs to be treated kindly. So unless Chuuli says, Kayden preyed on me, Kayden groomed me, right now, what we have is assumptions. We don't have anything else to go on. To my knowledge, this video is just them talking about their experiences, and in and of itself, that can be fine. To my knowledge, Chuuli is not claiming that Kayden is a predator, that Kayden needs to be blacklisted, that Kayden needs to be removed, doxxed, or any of that. They're just saying inappropriate conversations happened around me in these spaces, and that is true.
Well, I was about to say, they opened this, the parts about Kayden up with, the fact that, well, not the fact, but, with the statement that Kayden sexually harassed them. That's something that's important to mention.
I see.
I
That's
know
the
the
point.
context of that. The thing that I said was there. What I said was when Chuuli was sucking up. Well, I kissing up, sucking up, whatever. You want to put that in the phrase. I used the phrase Chuuli sucking your dick.
Shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that. But that was also the nature of the server.
Here's the thing that I need you to internalize here, and I say this without like dogging on you or judging you harshly. Regardless of the nature of a server, like, you make your own decisions here. The nature of this server is extremely emotionally volatile. I choose whether or not I want to be that or whether or not I want to remain calm. So just something to keep in mind going forward, regardless of spaces you're in.
But the other thing I'll say that is not something I do anymore. In fact, I actively stay away from minors in these servers. If I'm in a server with minors, if it's not a public server, I avoid that server at all costs. Which is one of the major things that they said that I should be doing.
Yeah.
And if that's how they feel, that's how they feel. And personally, I've taken this entire thing as a learned experience, and I'd rather stay away, excluding from the hypothetical of having a child, which my demeanor would immediately change. I don't like being around children. I don't like being around anybody under the age of 18.
Kids do suck, so the point still stands, though. Unless Chuuli has made claims that they know are incorrect or that do not jive with the information presented, right now the response, as much as you may want it to be, cannot be anger. Or should not be anger. If this is something that you guys talked about...
It's hard not to be.
Well, I know, but you guys already talked about this months ago, remember? So, you knew this was coming. You knew this video was coming out. Granted, apparently there was some sort of agreement about seeing it before it did that fell through, that's here or there. But, like, you knew this was coming, so it wasn't a blindsiding sideball.
It wasn't, and I'm not saying it is. What I'm saying is, we came to an understanding that my actions back then do not reflect the actions of now. In fact, I have, for anybody who is paying attention or anybody who noticed, and I have a feeling nobody in this call has, I stepped away from all forms of content creation, all forms of streaming, anything, the things that were making me money at the time. I took the time away from that under request from Chuuli.
Okay, that's...
to show that I have changed.
Okay, now, since you watched it, was any of this communicated in Chuli's video?
Lee, are you here?
I think they're mute.
She was made permanent.
Yeah, we'll come back to her in a minute.
I remember her mentioning that an apology from Kayden was mentioned.
Okay, that's
if
good.
I'm recalling correctly.
I was just mainly concerned about this because this is the first I've heard of it, and I just, I haven't been around your circle in forever, so I just didn't know what was going on. That was about it.
Yeah.
Because I remember being in that server a long time ago.
I'll say this right now, and I'll say this to anybody who asks me, and I'll make a statement in the courthouse in that thing that in the topic discussion thread that you made. I'll make a full statement if it makes anybody feel better. I am in no way happy with my actions from back then. I am a completely different person than I was back then. Anybody who's been around me or anybody who's talked to me, I have a feeling, Autumn, you and I knew each other back then.
Yeah.
You can I bet you, and I'm saying this more of a just assumption, that you can tell that I'm a completely different person than I was back then right now.
It's been a while. I think we rarely spoke, but I don't think I recall any conversations we had in said server, because I think
Fair.
you know I was very particularly attached to Rachel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read that part, but I learned some very unfortunate things. happened
Trust
to
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my sympathy towards you and everybody involved. My point being is that growth internally, externally has happened since then. These events happened in 2017, 2018. It is 2024. There's and anybody who has been around me, anybody who can attest, I think Lio can attest to this, at least without the people saying the bias part of Blaze. Anybody in this server that is in, like, what was it? Zenny can back me up on this one. Is I am a completely different person than I was back in 2017. I have learned to deal with my emotions more maturely. I have made sure that the servers that I am in are very selective, and that in the process that I am taking the efforts to, even after this all came out, to still that I need to know that I'm changing.
Yeah.
Oh God, sorry. I'm flustered. I just got off of a long shift. And I've had a long week.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is, I will not say the actions that, like, the shit that I said back then was wrong. Not wrong. I will not say what Chuuli said that I said is wrong in the sense that these things did happen. They are wrong in the sense that I should have never done this.
Well,
and
what do you mean
I have done everything in my power.
Hold on, you said they are wrong in the sense that they said you should never have done this. I mean, that's true though. You shouldn't have done it.
Yeah. No. What I'm saying is, it is wrong that I've done it, and I shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying that they're wrong in saying that I am in the wrong for doing this.
Okay.
Miswording.
Sorry. It's hard. There's a lot of wrongs here to make right, and I'm sorry. Jokes, haha, hee hee ho ho. But the point I'm trying to make is, Chuli's not wrong in feeling that I have done wrong. Chuuli is not wrong in saying what I did was wrong. I am in the wrong for doing this stuff in the first place. But the only thing I can do now is grow, change, and move forward with my life.
Yeah.
Which I have been doing since the pandemic.
Okay, but in that, you and Blaze also can't reasonably blame Ponder either. To my knowledge, and to the knowledge of everything I've been told, Ponder didn't come in there and, like, let somebody throw you under a bus. Ponder was just there for, what, verification and emotional support? So, I don't understand why I don't understand why people are saying
I'm not
blame
I still, in an arm's length type of way, trust Ponder. The issue that we have with Ponder, and this is completely detached from it, is there were several moments where, while this video was being made, while these documents were being gathered and all that stuff, Ponder would hang out in a call in one server and then immediately go towards another, and then immediately, what was it, in Hiten server, I'll just say names, seeing that the video is about them, and then immediately the next step go into their own server and start hanging out with people that are in that server and not Hiten server, and that put a bad taste in, more specifically, Blaze's mouth, especially.
Yeah, that really soured it for me, because explicitly the calls that Ponder was part of is like shortly after a text in the server was sent basically, it was shortly after Hiten texted in the server, "I'm not doing well," and basically, she was in like her lowest. I don't know what I'm fully allowed to say here, but to put it lightly, she was suicidal.
Okay, I get that, but like, you're mad because Ponder was in calls?
No, I'm mad because Ponder was in there watching Hiten break down vividly and then immediately going back to Chuuli. I don't know what was said between her and Chuuli after that point. I'm not talking like, oh, a day after. I mean 5 minutes after.
I'm aware, but again,
visibly.
Hold on, back up. If you don't know what was said, you don't know what was said. You cannot hold Ponder responsible for Chuli's actions. Ponder can't control Chuuli any more than I can control any of you, so I don't understand why you're upset with Ponder.
I'm not holding her responsible for Chuli's actions. I'm holding her responsible for her own actions. I don't think it was in good taste.
It was in bad faith, and it could diminish a lot of trust in the way that everything went down. We would see Hiten go through these messages and the drama alerts, and I'm going into specifics, but I could say this stuff and either way.
And this was during the time that we had started being aware that a video was being made.
Yeah.
No, that's actually
and
not.
then
So that's what I didn't like.
Back up.
It's like, okay,
you're going off of incorrect information. Ponder's access to drama chat was removed before Hiten had a full meltdown about any of this. And before, to my knowledge, Chuuli announced a video.
Okay, then we did not know that. And
this is based on my own memory. I could be wrong, but I remember Ponder limiting the drama chat when Yuki spilled something.
After that. Yeah, that was after Yuki. This situation happened before Yuki.
I do remember the Yuki situation didn't happen until May. Hiten was going through these swings in April, and the video was mentioned back in April and March.
I explicitly remember this because the Yuki thing was directly involving me.
Hold on, actually, I'm gonna double check that because something doesn't work with that timetable. Give me a moment.
The thing that happened in May with Yuki, it was directly involving me, the thing with Yuki. Yeah. So, Ponder's access was it was only limited after that. A lot of people's access were limited after that. But before that was when Hiten was at her worst. And I vividly remember her being in calls with Hiten while she was in these swings. And then immediately hopping in with Chuuli 5 minutes later. And I'm not talking group calls, I mean one-on-one with Chuuli. And this was before we found out that there was... Wasn't it before we found out that a video was being made? It was around that time.
No, the video was mentioned, like people found out that Chuuli was going to be making a video, I believe, in April.
You're right. That's what triggered it.
And yeah, that's what triggered it initially.
So I'm going through DM.
Granted, time is a soup, so...
Is it okay if I quickly chime in with something?
Yes.
You can tell me if this was already brought up. I suppose something that could help your case, or just definitively prove anything, Kayden. Do you still have your DM history of Chuuli? If any at all?
Let me double check.
Because going through that could very well help either of your case. I don't know whose, but we'll see.
To be fair, Livy, I don't think... if earlier, I believe Kayden mentioned that he was not going to address this and just move on. If I remember correctly, Kayden?
I am going to address it in the server because the only people that will know that are interested or anything of that nature would be in this server. I'm not going to be addressing anything publicly, and if anybody comes towards me about this public, I'll make a singular statement and then move on with my life.
Well, if I recall, Kayden, you've already made a public apology on Twitter. You've already done a public apology about this.
Okay.
No,
I looked it up.
You have, because you said the reason that you were on hiatus.
Oh yeah, the hiatus thing.
I looked it up. The Yuki thing came before Chuuli announcing making a video, because Hiten told me directly in DMs at the end of April that was happening, but the stuff with Yuki happened at the beginning of April.
Okay, that's fine. That is fine. So, but the fact still stands, Hiten was in a very bad spot, and I remember wanting to be in those calls, and I couldn't be in those calls, and Ponder was in those calls. And then I remember immediately, like 5 minutes after those calls, is when she was in one-on-one with Chuuli.
Yeah, but
on her server.
But you don't know what was said there either.
No, I don't know what was said. I don't feel I'm wrong to think that was in bad taste.
I put a little comment about it in the Prowl Pet side chat here.
I can't see.
I can't read it up on the road. Also, while we're at this, I'm sorry, Jace, for blowing up at you. That wasn't my. It's not
Emotions
excusable.
are high.
Emotions are high. It's not excusable. I took out my frustration on you. I've been dealing with a lot of shit at my new job. I'm repeating government policies I don't fucking understand to people who are yelling at me. It's not fun.
If I can get a date, I can scrub back. Yeah, I have found my DMs. I could scrum back and see what was there. But I'll also say this as another thing, depending on when this happened, I am running across a lot of civility between me and Chuuli. In fact, friendliness between me and Chuuli, talking about politics, talking about non-sexual things, sending memes, sending happy birthday wishes. A thing that, well, no, they were an adult whenever they sent me that. I'm not even gonna fucking think, but a joke copy pasta about Easter. The Happy Easter, you snow bunny hose. And it goes off and like humming and cummies and stuff like that. So.
And those were from Chuuli?
Those are from Chuuli.
Okay.
I never sent anything of that nature towards them.
Yeah, if I may, the thing I mentioned in the little side chat, you were mentioning how Ponder would hop from a server and then almost immediately after he spoke about like spiraling and her swings and all that,
I feel like
another server or another call.
Yeah. Okay. So let me clarify. In Heten's server, Hiten was talking about she's not doing well. She's in a mentally terrible spot. I don't know what terms I'm able to use here, but I feel like if I say it bluntly, it just makes the most sense if I could.
Suicidal ideations.
Yeah. Hiten was very much into those thoughts. And she had expressed that to the server. So when she expressed that to the server, people were hopping into a call with her to try to comfort her. I forget who all was in there. It was a couple of people, and then Ponder was also in there. I wasn't able to hop in there because I was busy with something, and I could not free myself up to be in there. However, I do remember when I checked back in Heten's server to see if she still needed help, there was no one in that call. Okay. And then, like, after I found that out, I hop into, I just check into Ponder's server really quick, because they have some Minecraft stuff in there. And I see Ponder in a call with Chuuli, and there's no one else in that call. And that made me very nervous. I didn't like that. I felt it was in very bad taste, given how bad Heten's mental state was. And it made me very nervous as to, okay, what's happening here? Like, how much grace do I need to be giving in this situation?
Well, Ponder's
Do you
up
think
if we want to bring
she was
Ponder into the call.
being- Yeah. Do you
Are
think she was like being avoidant by any chance?
I think that
I think
people
right
are,
now would be best to get Ponder in.
I think people are reading too much into
think-
this simply because it is, and I've been in a situation like this, it is not easy and it is not fun to have two friends that are having a really hard struggle between each other and you're caught in the middle and you don't know what to do. So I think that people are assuming Ponder's doing some snake stuff or is being inconsistent or not being careful about other people and how they feel when that may not be the case here and probably isn't. It can't be easy for Ponder. It really can't be, because people do expect Ponder to control Chuuli or tell Chuuli to do things. Chuuli is a fully functional adult. They pay their own bills. They do taxes. Like, Ponder can't make Chuuli do or not do something.
We're not. I'm gonna say
I'm not
this right now.
saying- I'm
Yeah.
not saying she's making Chuuli do anything. I don't know what was said in that call. I'm saying it was in bad taste.
Well-
I don't feel I'm wrong in saying that I felt it was in bad taste.
You can feel how you want, but the thing is, you're also looking at it from an external point where you can microscope it and say, well, it's in bad taste that somebody went from one call to another, but to the people involved in those calls, it was just going from one call to another. There's nothing inherently
It's
wrong
the
or sinister.
fact. It's the fact of the people that were involved and how volatile everything was at the time. It's not just, oh, you hopped from one call to another. It's what was involved. It's the people that were involved and the situation that was happening.
I'm gonna say this because you're driving, so you know.
She's
B
in here,
has.
I know.
Okay, just making sure. My
Ponder.
point, my general gist, and all I'm trying to say is, God, I'm floundering. I've barely eaten. I have barely slept. I have just gotten off of an 8-hour shift, and I get a message. I get a call. Blaze wants to do a call, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on with Chuli's video?" And I get bombarded with all this information.
Well, I was bombarded with questions when I was tagged, and then when I said, hey, I'm at work, I'm just coming off my break, I'm not allowed to have my phone out on the call room floor, and then I'm bombarded with questions I'm not able to answer, and I'm almost, like, I straight up went into a panic attack earlier.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed with the community going forward. Unless a life is at stake, immediacy isn't required for everything. You don't have to tag people into freaking oblivion. Good lord.
It's not the fact that I was tagged. It's and I'm in a calmer state now when I'm saying this. So Jace, I'm really trying to explain what was going on in my headspace when this happened. It was the implication in the message itself.
Yeah. The implication of
that
you didn't know what your boyfriend was doing. Ooh, yeah, we gotta be better about that.
Right. And that really, I think that's kind of what sent me a little bit. And I know you didn't intend that. I'm just telling you where my headspace was at when it happened.
Yeah. So Ponder is here. You might want to give them a minute to wake up. Wake and bake and all that.
Well, I might have to give him. I don't know if they're able to speak right now, because the trial pit is very specific with like text chats, and so I don't know if they're able to speak in chats.
I cannot read the text chat.
Yeah. So, okay, that'll. Let me see. Would it be best if
I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here for long after this. So whatever permissions you need to give, I'm not going to do anything to the server.
Okay.
My.
Do we still have that roll? Hold on. How do play apples again. God damn it. Mollusk, where are you? Water. Will the guest roll still count? Jace, I might need your help. Okay, I can talk, I just didn't want to interrupt. Okay. Okay. In that case...
I haven't watched the video. Personally, I'm not going to watch the video.
I get it.
It's because the majority of the video is not about me. If somebody timestamped the section, I can clear up any information or anything of that nature. But
Okay, can you guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
I switched over to my headphones. I turned off the engine on my car.
Am I needed for anything else?
No, you can go ahead and bounce.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
I was
you.
gonna ask for timestamp, but yeah.
Yeah, if you can timestamp it, I'd appreciate it. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll timestamp at the very least, like, when you're first named. After that, I'll dip from the server. I didn't really want to get involved in anything else, but...
So, okay, actually clear me up. There's no definitive section of me. Just moments explained of things that I did at the time.
Yeah, like, there's a focus on you, but this section isn't like Kayden Monroe or anything like that. It's just, oh god.
I think Autumn might have mentioned the specific segment where you were brought up. Let me scroll back up and find it.
That was around the chapter that was like where it's called not a like oh god or something around there. That's the timestamp I gave. I don't exactly know when the mention of Kayden is brought up. I just know that V and Kayden were mentioned.
Okay.
This is the timestamp I landed on.
Okay.
But there's a little bit of context before.
I'm unable to see the chat, so if anyone's posting in chat, I just can't see it. I don't think my internet access is slow, perhaps? I don't know.
No, nobody can see it.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce from the server for at least until next week.
Yep.
So
Bye-bye.
that's when the thing's happening.
Right.
Later.
Take care of yourself.
I'll try.
Okay, so I'm screen sharing.
What are we screen sharing?
The segment that
The segment that I'm brought up.
Let me take
Yeah.
a look.
And getting to talk to her and Ponder Sprocket over the last year and finally understanding how we all process the abuse and manipulation has been absolutely amazing. The three of us spent a lot of time together back in June when they visited me.
I'm
for
not able
VidCon,
to see
and
it.
I
I don't know if
couldn't
that's
have
just
been
a mobile
happier.
thing.
People will
It
disingenuously
probably
try to
is.
bring up the effect that Phagos' abuse and lies had on me as a way to explain why I'm being so crazy and unreasonable, because they really did have an effect on me. I know this isn't something I should really entertain because the sentiment is pretty gross, but I know there are some people out there who don't think that the situation, when put on paper, sounds super damaging. Like, they don't hear the situation and think of it as something abusive that causes trauma, especially because, like, it's the internet and that whole thing. I was 15. V, who was 19 at the time, on multiple occasions sent me very explicit porn hatred. One of those drawings he sent me 4 times in one day to update me on the progress of it. And on that day, I even got into a conversation with him about sexual preferences and innocently remarked how all of my friends in the SCC had a specific preference, except for one man that I knew. That man being Kayden, who is known online as Kayden Monroe,
and he was 27 at the time. You might notice that it's a little weird that a 15-year-old would know the sexual preferences of a 27-year-old man, and that's because it is, and bad stuff was indeed happening behind the scenes. Look, I'm just gonna lay it straight. When I was 14, 15, I was essentially groomed by several adult men in the SCC/adjacent into entertaining their sexualities, which we can see happening in my DMs with V Omega, where I was basically taught that being sent porn and having sexual conversations with adult men was normal. I'm not saying it was a coordinated effort necessarily, but it was more than one man. It was several men, and I entertained them when I was 15 as I was taught to. That is until I was about halfway through 16 and I stopped and started pushing back. Now, I haven't been friends with Kayden or been close to him in any regard for a while now, and for a long time I just had vague negative feelings about him with no true understanding of why. And that little mention of him in V's DMs was my only breadcrumb, but nothing beyond that. That is until I searched through my DMs with a friend who I vented to a lot back in the day, and I found instances back in 2019 when I detailed a list of times I was sexually harassed by Kayden, wherein the gist is basically that he would push sexual boundaries, often under the guise of comedy, either by comments directly crudely sexualizing me, or by posting and saying very inappropriate, often explicit things in front of me. One of these instances happened publicly on a friend's live stream, who I don't blame because they were extremely high at the time and were barely listening. I have the audio from that incident, but I don't want to post it because I would be so uncomfortable with that being public because it's so humiliating.
Fuck you.
Excuse me?
What was it?
I saw the footage. They shared it with me. The context was clear. And they removed it and are making me look worse. Was it appropriate? No.
Are you talking about the stream clip?
Yeah, I'm talking about the stream clip. It's not in the video.
Are you shitting me?
No.
So context was omitted?
Context was omitted.
Is the stream still accessible?
Oh boy.
Only with one person. And I'm not going to say their name unless they...
Kayden. We are beyond that,
Me.
man. You've got to.
B. I know.
Ponder.
I know. I'm trying to calm down.
Okay.
No, B. Ponder. Yeah, Ponder.
Okay, well...
It was on Ponder's stream. Ponder was high.
Okay.
The lead up to the statement was, you know who makes good videos? Ponder. And I said, I'll quit sucking Ponder's dick. That's all I said. In no way was it sexually towards them. It was in the sense of, oh, they're kissing your ass. So they removed the context completely to make it sound like I was being sexual towards them.
Hold on.
Why was that first section removed?
Hold on. Back up. Let's not make assumptions, all right? We don't know if they removed the context, or they genuinely thought that was the context and have not watched that stream in a long time.
In the call that we had, they knew the context.
Okay. Ponder.
They did not like the fact that I was saying it.
Okay.
But they knew the context.
Ponder, is that call recorded?
You would have to ask Chuuli or Clown. I can't remember if I recorded it.
Because I can't. I can't ask either of them. So, if that is true...
Okay, I can...
Yeah, sorry. They made it clear they don't...
It should have been included, though.
They blocked me, so I'm respecting that. But, yeah.
It should have been included. Who edited the video?
Chuuli.
Well,
Chuuli did everything for this video.
Well, hold on. Ponder, is that stream, like, publicly available? Is it unlisted, privated, what?
It's unlisted. I would have to send you a link. I can do that at my computer. Give me a minute.
Sure.
If this is the case, I'm not apologizing publicly. I'm not going to state.
Hey.
Hold on. Back up. Hold on.
Let's find out what happened first.
Even if, Kayden, this is one instance of Chuuli screwing this up, whether intentionally or not, there's still plenty you can apologize for. This isn't a matter of withholding an apology because the other person isn't as big of the person as you want them to be.
It's a pretty big oversight, but we need to hear everything first.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and continue that.
And demoralizing. But just know that in every instance, I would ask him, beg him to stop. And to him it meant keep going and try to justify why it was okay for him to do that. And the one time he did stop is because another adult witnessing what was happening shut it down very sternly. But that didn't stop him from repeating the incident again when they weren't around. Now, evidently, I knew how to stand up for myself in the moment, but I didn't know how to ask for support or coordinate a confrontation at the time. When I basically rediscovered all of these locked memories in the middle of writing this script, I had a really bad few weeks, to say the least, and it's a big reason why this video is coming out as late as it is. I told my friends what happened, including the one who shut Kayden down initially, and they helped me set up a confrontation with him. In that call, I even played the audio to him of when he did harass me on the stream, and he did profusely apologize for what he had done, and he did do what I asked of him, which was to take a break from his platform for a couple of weeks while he reflected on the knowledge of his actions. He knows that I'm talking about this publicly, and I expect him to address it publicly in his own words as well. Originally, I was gonna say something here about how I'm not personally coming forward with this information because I want to destroy Kayden's career and whatever he's doing online, but I realize it shouldn't matter. I should be able to come forward about this for whatever reason I want. I don't want what happened to me as a minor in these communities to be a dirty little secret. And just like with Faghost, I don't think it's fair to make a victim cater to the person who victimized them just because the victimizer is afraid of consequences. Hello. So I need to put a little addendum here that I did not plan on doing prior to like a week before this video goes out. So recently I was contacted by Laka about V Omega, and I shared with him all of the DMs and testimony I could of V being expressly inappropriate with me while I was a minor, including the screenshot where I mentioned Kayden. I told him he was allowed to share all of the screenshots and testimony except for the one that mentioned Kayden, because I wanted to be the one to tell that story to the public. And he agreed and respected that. And Laka, thank you so much for doing that, because as you know, and as everyone is about to find out, that was not a privilege I had before. You see, the reason why Laka even knew that I was victimized by V Omega at all is because that information was shared in a video by Bummer Patrol, also known as Dalsnick, back in 2021. The information in the screenshot included in that video was published without my consent or even. But you know what? Until recently, I thought about just forgetting that and telling the full story anyways, as if it was the first time anyone was hearing about it. Because the video was deleted when Dahl ethered the Bummer Patrol channel, even though I knew that the video still existed on an archive website. That is until Laka told me that the archive of the video was circulating again, and how people were looking at and talking about that humiliating screenshot of me being sent porn as a 15-year-old that I didn't have a say in being posted. And the reason it was going around again is because V Omega was found to have come back under a different alias. And they knew that because Dahl was talking to him through that alias in 2022. So let me get this straight. You couldn't be bothered to talk to the person whose child abuse images you were about to post for everyone to see even once to make sure they were okay with it or even knew, but went out of your way to play footsie with the abuser and talk to him about how he did sexually abuse minors and was in a server chock full of minors. Boy, fuck you.
Agreed. Based.
Okay. Back to the regular video. So, anyways, as you can tell, the stuff with V happened before Faghost fed me the story, long before, and the thing with Kayden happened both long and right before Faghost fed me the story. And after I was fed the assault story by Faghost, I was sexually harassed twice in Spectre's Patreon Discord server when I was 17, both, again, by adult men. One of these
I think that's it.
Can I just kill people? Can I just get one license to just kill certain people? I would really appreciate that.
Be really awesome.
No, man. Felt that.
No, I'm. That's not towards me. That's towards V Omega, babe.
I know.
Obviously.
Hey,
I made a promise to V. I made a promise to him, and once I'm dealt with my own problems, I'll follow up on that whenever way I can.
I'll make the apology when I'm ready. Right now, I am pissed because they did omit that information. They omit the context of the entire thing. I'll make an apology in the comment section. I'm not just.
I would like to offer a perspective.
Please.
Hello?
But
Go ahead.
I'm listening.
Sorry. I worry that Chuuli omitted it to protect me because she did, like, at separate times in that video say, like, oh, the one adult who stepped up, the person who stepped up got me into contact. She never specified that it was me who did it.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if she...
That's a big problem, though. That's another problem that I am having in this entire situation.
Okay, it might be a problem.
I'm gonna be upfront with you, Ponder. You are not blameless in this.
I'm aware. I've apologized to Chuuli countless times. Well, not countless times.
I know you've apologized to her. I know you've apologized to her. I get that. But this situation is painted with a brush that conveniently omits you.
That's up to Chuuli.
And puts other people under a light. I don't like that.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. This is from Chuli's perspective. And it's about who Chuuli is concerned with. This isn't about whether or not all things are equal. If Chuuli has decided that Ponder doesn't play that much of a role in their trauma, that's not something we can judge. We can complain about it maybe and talk about, lack of consistency or lack of broad idea, but that's Chuli's
I understand that. I understand that, I do. But her perspective on it versus the truth of it are two wildly different things. She can keep that in the video, she can paint it however she wants in that video. But I know what happens. And I don't like what I'm seeing.
Okay. But the thing is... Go ahead.
I just don't want this to end in a fight. Please.
We're not fighting, we're just talking.
You talking to me specifically?
Just in general. What I said was inappropriate. I should have been more responsible as an adult. There's a lot of things that even Chuuli admitted. What matters the most is even Chuuli was like, Kayden's taking an effort to change. And I'll make the apology this weekend. I just can't do it today. I am not mentally able.
Well, it's better to
in the moment that
You're
I'm
a better man than me, I'm gonna be honest. You're a much better person than me then.
The point.
I made a promise and I keep my promise.
Exactly. Frankly, I've had people say and do awful things to me, but if I got information wrong, I've still apologized for that, regardless of the nature of the individual I've talked about. I don't think that there's anything about being bigger or smaller. It's just being honest. Regardless of whether or not Chuuli... Sorry, go ahead.
I need to transfer over to my computer. I found the video. I have to jump into open discussion, have someone pull me back in.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Don't worry.
Are you two holding up okay?
I'm really trying to take some deep breaths here. I am. It's very difficult. I know I need to be here for this conversation because I've been left out of this conversation for way too long, and I'm not happy with the way that this ended. I'm not happy with the way this is being portrayed. I'm not happy with the way this went.
All right, I'm in.
Alright, let me know when I should. I'm in.
I am also in. I think the only one is not is Blaze. I think she's still out.
I can't because I'm on mobile and it won't let me, but I've seen the stream clip that they're showing, so.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Gonna be that guy. They did literally tell you to stop and you kept going.
Yeah, and I apologize for that, but the lack of context is the issue on that.
Okay, what did Chuuli say that's incorrect, though, in this case?
It's not the fact that she said anything incorrect, it's the fact that she's leaving out context. He apologized for what he did. I understand it was not okay. He understands it was not okay. He was in that call when he apologized to her. That's not the issue. The issue is that she took out that part in her video.
No, they...
The omission of contact.
Wait, they admitted in the video, though, that Kayden has apologized.
Yes! No! Listen to me! Holy shit! What part of this is not clear?
Babe.
A lot of it, which is why I'm asking for clarification.
No,
I'm not fighting you, I'm trying to understand it.
He apologized for it. She said that. Great. That doesn't change the fact that she omitted context. Ponder, you cannot tell me that that changes the fact that she omitted context. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong. Somebody.
I'm just trying to understand the context that is omitted. Chuuli described what happened in the video.
She described what happened. She did not describe the actual context of it. It was a follow-up in a conversation that they were having. Yes, he should have stopped. I'm not saying I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
But this was part of a conversation.
So the context is it was a continuation of a conversation.
Yes, it was a follow-up to this. It was a joke that he made. A poor taste joke. But it was a follow-up to a conversation that was occurring in the stream.
And you feel that the video acts like it just came out of nowhere?
Yes!
Okay. The thing is, Sorry, go ahead, Bonder, don't mean to cut you off.
No, you go.
The thing is, having watched that section, I'm not seeing where they said anything incorrect.
That's not what we're arguing. That is literally not what we're arguing. I just said this 3 times. We're not arguing anything was incorrect. We're arguing context was removed. That's completely different.
Okay, so...
Okay.
How else do I need to explain this?
In the video, since I know you weren't able to watch it because you're on mobile, okay? They said it was in a stream. They detailed what happened in that stream. And then they said that Kayden later apologized.
How did they detail what happened? What was part of the conversation?
They said that Kayden had made comments about sucking dick, that somebody stepped in and told them to stop after Chuuli asked for Kayden to stop, and it took somebody cutting in, another adult cutting in to tell Kayden to stop to actually get him to stop. That is what happened here.
But it was part of a crass fucking joke that was part of a conversation that he thought was just a joke. I'm not saying that he was correct. I'm saying there's a part of context that was removed from the situation. And whether we like to accept that or not, it does paint the situation in a different light. It does have a different implication to it.
I don't personally think it does, and here's why. Okay? I'm going to be a little bit visceral here, a little bit blunt. If somebody came to me making a joke about what my grandfather did to me, whether it's a joke or not doesn't change its impact and isn't context that makes anything better. If anything, it makes it a little worse. It's not really any different here. Kayden was making a joke, sure. You can say that, but it's still the same actions. The action
I'm
is...
not excusing I know, I'm not excusing the behavior. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what I'm saying. He knows it was wrong. He apologized for the behavior. That's not the point of argument here.
Okay. I'm going to...
It's a different... Okay, go ahead.
So your statement is you think that because the fact that it was not a joke, or not, it was not mentioned that it was a joke, was not put into the video, that it paints this in a more sinister light.
I think he should have played the entire clip.
Okay, you can...
To be honest.
Sorry.
That's a fair argument. I don't disagree.
Someone please tell me I'm wrong in saying that he should have played the entire clip.
I'm not.
If anything, after seeing the entire clip itself, I feel like, honestly, the clip itself made him look even worse from what I've been seeing of it.
JC, you are roboting. We can hear you, but you're roboting.
I could tell that they were saying that the clip makes it worse. I would also like to chime in. I'm not entirely sure if the context of it being a part of a broader conversation is necessary, given that the conversation it stemmed out of was, oh yeah, this person made a good video. You know who makes a good video? This person. And then it extends into a joke that went past someone's boundaries and continued to go against their boundaries. I'm not, like, realistically speaking, it's not really tied to the conversation. It's like if the conversation is a straight line, it's a branch coming off of it that, realistically speaking, could have stemmed from anything said in, like, a complimentary manner.
Okay, and we'll see if people view it that way. I just don't think they would.
Well, whether... The thing is, like, from what I recall from seeing that section, it is not that Chuuli is making claims that Kayden tried to groom them or tried to seduce them in any way. It is essentially coming down to, this is a problem in these spaces. Kayden did this issue as an example of the problem in these spaces, because it is a problem. Let's not kid ourselves. Carmen Writer still exists. And it literally said, Kayden apologized, took some breaks off their social media to reflect. That's, so far, everything that has been listed has been confirmed as accurate. It's unpleasant. It's certainly uncomfortable, but it is accurate. Just like when people tell me you bullied a disabled girl for 8 hours or for 4 hours, it's uncomfortable. I hate that I did it, but it's accurate. You got to own it, and you've got to swallow it, and you've got to move on and be better. And that's okay. You're giving.
No, I completely get that. I completely get that. He's owned it. He's apologized for it. No one was arguing that. It's fine. I'm honestly done talking about that now.
Okay. So.
Because this is kind of falling on deaf ears a little bit. I'm again, we'll see how people view it, but I'm willing to wager a little bit that it won't be viewed that way. That's just my 2 cents. You can take that for what you will.
It's too late, but I'm just... I'll say this. My big concern is I just want to make sure everybody understands that who I am now is not who I was back then. If I had to be selfish and ask and say that.
If I thought you were still running around having these conversations, you and I would not be talking.
It's true. Just I care for the safety of the people around me. I'm also more concerned for Blaze's. I'm just gonna say this to you, babe. I'm worried for you because you're taking this more personally than I am right now.
Frankly, what I think you two should do is take the weekend off, take Blaze on a date, you'll have fun. Think about it. That's all you really got to do.
We live in 2 different states.
Well, doggone it!
We have been for 8 years.
I am going to lose my mind.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Tomorrow it's 8 years.
Holy shit! What?
Y'all got together on my birthday?
What the hell? Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Congrats.
Y'all are gay.
What can I say? I love her.
Oh, good. I will ask Ponder real quick. Ponder, during Chuuli making this video, did Chuuli ever ask you for a link to this stream?
Chuuli already had it.
Okay. It is strange it wasn't included then. Well, very odd.
Well,
I sorry. Go ahead, Ponder.
I think the reason it wasn't included, and I could be wrong, I could maybe voice this by Chuuli, but I think it has to do with the thing that Chuuli talked about immediately after talking about the clip, was that the V Omega screenshots were showcased without their permission behind their back and in a video that they had no say in, and that has continued to circulate over the years. I think it might be a matter of Chuuli wanting some level of control in choosing whether or not she wants embarrassing situations where she felt wronged being out there. I think
that's
not sharing that clip is her choice in that regard.
There's also the idea that you voiced earlier of Chuuli wanting to protect you because they didn't mention you in these sections.
Yeah.
And obviously putting this clip in there kind of removes any of that. So that's
I was going to say the same.
So, okay.
I think, I know that she specified that I was high off my ass. That was a common thing with streams back at that time.
Yeah.
I'm heavily debating whether or not to say the thing that I want to say, but I don't know.
Do you want to run it by me in DMs?
I kind of can't. I mean, well, so, okay. Ponder, during the time Hiten was at her worst, when she was in the absolute throes of her suicidal ideation, there were times where you were in calls with her, and there was a bunch of people in there with her trying to calm her down, and then immediately after, we were in one-on-one calls with Chuuli. I have to know what those were about. Because I can't just see that and act like that was fine.
Wait.
One-on-one calls in the sense that you were in your server hanging out. In your server, you were hanging out with Chuuli and only Chuuli.
When did this happen?
It would be back
earlier
in
this year.
That'd be back in April.
Of this year?
Yes.
Yes.
I
have to know what this was about. More specifically, I have to know. What part of Heten's struggle were you detailing to her? Because I feel like if that was the case, that was in very poor taste. It probably wasn't, because I wasn't there.
What struggle?
The suicidal thoughts and...
Yeah, it sounds as though Hiten was dealing with a lot of ideations at the time.
I wasn't sharing that with Chuuli.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
I wouldn't think she would.
Well...
I have to ask, okay?
The extent of what I voiced to Chuuli was when someone else brought things to my attention and asked me to step in and talk to Chuuli. And I said, hey, maybe calm down. I don't think Heten's doing very well right now. And I was asked to do that by Susie and maybe 2 other people. I don't.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, Chuuli was still tweeting about it at the time repeatedly.
Yes, and one of those days, Susie came to me and said, "Hey, can you get Chuuli to calm down?" And I went to Chuuli and said, "Hey, you should probably take a break. I don't think Heaton's doing very well."
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
I don't talk to people about other people's private mental health stuff that they haven't personally shared with them. That's not cool.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to know.
I was also not intimately aware of Heaton's ideation, and I prefer to stay far away from that topic.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that is true.
Okay.
I think that's.
Let's try not
drop
to-
it.
Well,
Yep.
Can we just not assume the worst of each other? Like going forward, please.
I had to ask because it was on my mind, and it had been for several months. And because I'm gonna be honest, this was this was kind of the root cause of the mistrust.
that you thought I was sharing that Heaton was...
I didn't know what was going on. I just didn't think it was in good taste at the time, especially with how quickly it happened. Like, it wasn't even like a day or so afterwards. It was like within the hour. And that part made me feel pretty icky, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I haven't been on Twitter for most of the year.
You're doing yourself a favor.
Good call. I'm sorry to everyone in this call. This was my decision to come in here about this stuff, and I don't want this to be over everybody's heads and the like. It's just, this is a lot to take in, especially after the week I've been having. I've just been having a rough week, and I did not like, all this was dropped onto me last minute in a call with I don't know.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I straight up had a panic attack at work. Like, I was not okay. And it's my new job, and I can't afford to lose it. And
sorry, go ahead, Blaze.
no, I'm just, I feel I need to say this, because if I don't, it's gonna fester, and it's gonna sound really, really volatile, but it does kind of need to be said. I am in a position, and Ponder, I did leave your server. I left a bunch of spaces. I'm the kind of person that when I lose trust in someone, it's very, very difficult to build that back. I don't know if that can be built back, but as of now, I have to be upfront. I have not been comfortable around you since that group call with Kayden happened. I have not been able to trust you a lot of the time since that happened. And I don't know if I will or if I can. Maybe sometime down the line. But as of right now, it's very high strung with me.
What did Ponder do in that call?
I don't think that's the point.
It's not the point. Okay, this entire situation, the way things were handled, the way everyone went behind each other's backs, the way I was left out of several different details and several things. I did not appreciate it. I wasn't okay with it. And now suddenly I have people tagging me in this. Like, hey, did you know?
Clarification's sake, Chuuli told me about the situation after she had talked to Clown about it. I offered to get into a call, or get her into a call with Kayden so they could discuss it. We had the call.
With Clown Teeth as well.
Yes. And then, because Clown Teeth was there for moral support. And then you and I and Kayden got into the call. That is the extent of my involvement in that regard. Chuuli told me it happened. I went back and I checked things to see that it happened. I offered to help mediate things. I understand the lack of trust, and I'm not trying to, like, 100%, I am not trying to be all like, oh, you shouldn't distrust me because blah, blah, blah. You have, like, it's fine. I get it. I had similar issues a few years ago with a good chunk of the community, and it's been a process trying to open myself back up in that regard. So I get it. I'm just trying to be open about this is the extent of my involvement. This is how it was explained to me. This is what I did.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
I understand that.
Do we have anything else that needs to be covered right now? Hello?
Is there anything else?
Yeah.
I could also specify that I had no involvement in the video. Chuuli asked me if I wanted to be involved. I said no.
Yep.
Is there anything else for anybody?
I have nothing else regarding all this, no.
Blaze was about to say something.
No, I was just gonna say that clarifies a lot.
Yeah,
I appreciate that Ponder said that.
Until right now, I hadn't watched the video because I'm not gonna.
It came out before you woke up today, so yeah, I
No,
understand why.
I knew it was coming out. It's not that I didn't have plans to watch it potentially at some point. I've been returning to thoughts that I would prefer not to be in the state of, and I've been avoiding certain things as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I've been disconnected.
No, I understand. And that's, honestly, you take care of yourself. I mean that, actually.
Yeah. That's...
Like, despite whatever we have... Yeah, I'm just saying, despite whatever we have, it's irrelevant. You need to be taking care of yourself, and I hope you are.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I think that's all we can really cover right now. So I need to go watch a movie, and I will catch the rest of you later, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Lio, and thank you everybody who came in. I apologize for the intrusion.
And you two, enjoy your anniversary tomorrow. That's an order.
Yes, that's also important. Please celebrate.
I am gonna make this known. I think it would be best for me not to be in the server anymore. Because, for starters, I'm not even part of the commentary community. It makes no sense for me to be here.
Okay.
Understandable.
And second, I just think it would be best for my mental health not to be in here.
You gotta take care of yourself first.
Understandable.
We'll be in contact.
Yeah. If you need anybody, I believe you're still in contact with Amity. I can always ask her what's up if necessary. So
yeah, Amity's yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I am gonna leave the server as well. JC, I'll get, whenever I make the comment, I'll give you the copy pasta of it and let you, if you can forward it into here, it's like, this is my statement type thing. That's about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of things I've had asked to be passed on to other people, Lio, can you, if you haven't already, check your DMs for me on your
I've
other
read it.
account?
I'll respond to it when I've processed some things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liv
Alrighty.
just wanted me to make sure you saw it.
I saw. All right. I'll be in contact if anybody needs me.
And
My
JC,
DMs are always
I also,
Thank you, Lio.
yeah. And JC, I just want to say that I am sorry for blowing up earlier.
Honestly,
Like,
with
that
how
was-
woke you've had every right to.
It was really shitty.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Wow. Firstly, welcome back to Present Me. Secondly, I've listened to this call several times, to be transparent, and every time it pisses me off just as bad. Sometimes even worse than before. So let's just get into it. So we have Blaze immediately trying to poison the well by putting blame onto Ponder, painting her as untrustworthy and underhanded, as well as her and Chris trying to portray the call that Ponder, Cloud, and I had in May, confronting him as a call where he was ganged up on and thrown under the bus. And mind you, the thing with Hiten that Blaze and Chris tried to cause speculation and distrust on Ponder over was the same fucking thing that Ponder had cleared up to him very directly in the original call. What am I supposed to view that as, if not these two chuckle fucks trying to bring up something they think they can cause people to shift negatively on Ponder over? Also, Blaze saying that she's not trying to hold Ponder responsible for my actions is a straight up cap, because I found messages that she sent in the old Cloud Palace commentary group Discord where she was doing just that. Slick. She was also just very brazen about trying to discredit the information I came forward with regarding Chris before hearing any of it, straight up saying that if there was anything she hadn't heard about prior, then it wasn't accurate. Because sure, I guess that's her fucking place to say now. There's also Chris immediately downplaying everything and saying that he was never sexual towards me and only ever was around me, which, on top of not being great either, is blatantly not true, as proven by the primary example used in my video, where he told me repeatedly that I was sucking off my adult friend's dick because I complimented her. That is very direct sexualization of a minor. I don't care if it was a joke. And there's also, you know, the whole BDSM thing. And actually, speaking of my video, oh my god, his reaction to me saying that I wouldn't share the clip publicly sends me into orbit every goddamn time. And I hope that everyone realizes how nonsensical the point about removing context was, but just in case, I'll just play a clip from my last video going over it. The biggest gripe they had was that by not including the clip, I was removing context. What context? Well, the only thing I could gather in terms of context was that the sexual harassment was done as a joke that was not meant to be taken sexually, even though the joke was repeatedly saying that I, as a 16-year-old, was sucking my adult friend 10 years my senior's dick. I don't give a fuck that it was a joke. That was unambiguous sexualization of a minor. And the fact that it was said in the manner of, haha, porn is my humor, doesn't matter? Also, I mentioned in my video that the things Kayden said to me and posted in front of me was often done as a joke, wherein the gist is basically that he would push sexual boundaries, often under the guise of comedy, either by comments directly crudely sexualizing me, or by posting and saying very inappropriate, often explicit things in front of me. Quick question though, does that change the fact that those jokes were still A, sexual in nature, B, making the underage recipient uncomfortable, which they voiced, or C, just to repeat, directed at a minor 11 years your junior? If the answer is no, which it is, then it's not groundbreaking perception-altering context that is going to make you look any better. This compounded with Chris acting like he's just above everything from his past, a brand new person, and both of them in specific trying to distance Christopher from his actions while pushing blame onto Ponder, it just proved to me that Chris's apology was full of shit. And it makes complete sense to me then why he said nothing on his actual platforms. As far as Ponder being blamed, I've gone into it a little bit already, but again, I'll just show how I covered that in my last video. Let me explain something real quick. There were 2 reasons I did not show the clip. The first is that it's humiliating and I'm the victim of what happened. It's my story to tell, and if I don't want to publicize a clip of me being sexually harassed as a minor to the whole of YouTube, despite how much the guy who sexually harassed me wants me to because he thinks it'll make him look better, then that should be my decision. The second reason is that I did not want attention to shift to the host of the stream, who was incidentally revealed in my follow-up stream was Ponder Sprocket. I was nervous and pretty certain that if I said exactly who the other adult was in that stream, despite the fact that Liam was also there, didn't mention that part either, focus would have been taken off of Kayden and put onto Ponder. For a few reasons, I didn't want that, and I didn't want blame for what happened to suddenly be pushed onto her. Not only, as I mentioned, was Ponder intoxicated in that stream and wasn't even paying attention to what was going on, but even then, she still stepped in and stopped things. She was also the one who I mentioned made him take down his lewd sex toy gifts and told him that shit was not allowed. Ponder is the only adult that I had who, when she saw this shit happening, shut it down. She made an effort to protect me when she saw adults being irresponsible, and what Kayden did isn't about her. It wasn't her job to make sure that Kayden, someone she trusted, wasn't sexually harassing a minor and detailing BDSM to them. I'm sure she trusted her friends to fucking be adults and not do that. And again, when she did see shit slip, shut it down. Kayden was an adult. Kayden knew better. Now, here's when I get to talk about something that I previously did not. Blaze had a private server that she occasionally talked about this stuff in. Unsurprisingly, I had a few moles in there, and they relayed things to me that she and Chris said. Full transparency, I didn't show what was said in my last video because I wanted them to feel comfortable enough to still talk in that channel when it did come out. However, the server is now gone, so I may as well. After the courthouse call, Blaze blew up in the server to whine about the ramifications of Christopher's actions and complained about the context again, and then expressed some weird pseudo-threats. That's the best way I can describe them. And a few days later claimed that I had done extreme damage to Christopher for, quote, no fucking reason, and that is despicable, which, wow, that really says everything, doesn't it? She then complained that I'm not holding responsible for what her fucking boyfriend did, and that even though she was inebriated and even then helped shut Chris down, she should be held to the same scrutiny. She also complained that Ponder's old server is gone, which, ironic, keep that in mind. Things then ended off again with the pseudo-threat. So after seeing how Christopher tried to paint a wildly different picture and downplayed the story to everyone in private, I decided that I needed to go more in depth on things that he had done to me when I was underage to try and cut that narrative short. I was unsure of how to speak about the call, as I was not sure if that would have muddied things, as I didn't have contact with Lio really at that point, but I did allude to knowing things happening behind the scenes that made me distrust Christopher's apology. Also, thankfully for me, he decided to be a dumbass in public about the whole thing anyways with this absolute unit of a tweet, so I got to use that. I've also found out from Lio Convoy that there was apparently a call in Hiten Mitsuru's private Discord server called Mary Skeleton Wars. This call was not recorded due to Lio being at work when it happened, much to my infinite sorrow. According to Lio, as well as a very long-time friend of Christopher's, Prince Loudon, the crashout was real. Memory of what happened in the call is pretty fuzzy, but beyond Blaze and Chris claiming that this shit is petty, okay, and that I had no proof for anything, people can generally tell that what was said in that call about my stream was not accurate. The craziest thing I've heard that came out of that call was Blaze considering taking legal action against me, which we're just gonna keep it pushing. Things continued when Blaze blew up in her server the next day afterwards and claimed that I publicly called Chris a groomer and also was mad about people coming to her directly, despite I seen in the same chat the day that my video came out a month prior, screaming that if people had a problem with her, then to be direct about it. Which is it, Blaze? Do you want people to confront you, or do you not want people to confront you? We all know the answer, I'm just wondering which one you're gonna say. There is then some light talks of ideation from Blaze, and apparently also from Chris, which I don't want to make light of necessarily, but I do have to ask, Why does it always come to this? Why is it that whenever one of these people is called out for their actions, they immediately jump to talks or threats of suicide or self-harm? Grow up! Seriously, you're okay! Not everything needs to be, oh, I should just kill myself. How about just shut the fuck up for 5 seconds and let your grown-ass boyfriend take some grown-ass responsibility? Is that really such a crazy fucking concept? And Chris, it doesn't have to be that way for you either. Your life isn't over. But at the same time, fuck off. You don't need a public platform if this is how you're going to act. I was fucking bullied off of my platforms after coming out about being abused because I didn't act right according to the community, and I somehow lived my life for 2 goddamn years before coming back. Something else I want to point out in these messages is Blaze talking about the blatant lies she's hearing about now. Hearing about, as in from word of mouth, because Blaze nor Christopher never actually watched that part of the stream to know for sure what was said about him. This shouldn't have been too hard to realize because the claims that Blaze made about my stream are just wrong. I never called Christopher a groomer in that stream. The only thing I did was say that I didn't blame other people that I had told in depth about Chris's actions for coming to that conclusion on their own, but that I didn't feel comfortable running ahead with that claim myself, nor did I feel comfortable shutting it down. I also directly told people in my chat to not call him a pedophile. Some people are upset with how Laka responded to Kayden. They think that the word groomer was a bit much to apply to him. And I think I'm aware of why Laka did that. Not saying it's necessarily the language I would use to describe Kayden. I don't know. I have conflicting testimonies or conflicting thoughts from people. Some people say he absolutely, this was grooming behavior. Some people say it wasn't grooming behavior. And you know, if the Cinny Bear situation has taught anyone anything, it's that people get really fucking heated about their conceptions, like what their conceptions of grooming are. So I don't know. I do know that it was wrong. What happened to me was wrong, and it was really fucking bad. And it was a wee bit traumatic. I'm just gonna say that because, like, obviously it affected me to a point where my brain literally stopped the memories. And I just, like, when your brain tries to protect you by forgetting something so that you can keep living on as close to normal as possible, it was bad. It was bad. And there was some stuff, and there's some stuff I didn't talk about with Kayden because, you know, I didn't have screenshots of all of it because a lot of it happened in VCs. And that's why I've talked about this. It's why it was so hard for me to come forward about Kayden, because I didn't think that I had evidence of shit. And you know what? There was enough evidence. Kayden knows about the sexual harassment. There's enough evidence of stuff going on where I think I'm at a point where I'm just gonna let my testimony speak for me. I'm just gonna speak my fucking things, and if I don't have the proof that needs to prove it to you and you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm gonna say what happened. I'm gonna say the things that I remember happening. I could be making a false memory, but I feel like I remember him saying that he loved this image, or that it was one of his favorite images in regard to the situation. Oh, don't. Okay, Rin, don't call him a pedo. Don't call Kayden a pedo. I don't think Kayden is a pedophile. My conclusion now is, of course, that yes, I was sexually desensitized to sexual content by Chris and other men into being okay with it as a child, which is a grooming behavior, even if it wasn't for relationship purposes, which is a very fair conclusion in my opinion. Anyways, I found out not long after my stream ended that not only had Blaze made this dumbass tweet accusing me of playing stupid games, but also Christopher himself stated that me talking about the things that he did, even in my original video back in September, was leading a harassment campaign against him. Yeah, you definitely have grown as a person, Chris. Go fuck yourself. After I punched back on Twitter at the both of them, I then watched them both delete their PDMe tweets and run away to Blue Sky. And I didn't really hear anything more from them publicly, but that didn't mean I wasn't already planning my next attack, so to say. Okay, now is when we finally get to tackle all of the new stuff since I last publicly spoke about this in a video. Yay. So real quick, I want to mention something that I didn't in my last video, which had to do with Avraham. Avi, is my abusive groomer ex-boyfriend who accused me of reverse grooming and abuse to the lot of his friends, but one of the other things that he did was defend Christopher. Can't imagine why. Anyways, on March 3rd of this year, the day after Avi was expelled from this corner of the internet after being privately confronted and interrogated, Chris made a woe is me manifesto in Blaze's server. First about me, then about something I have no idea about, and then Avi. He claims that Avi stabbed him and others in the back, presumably about the whole thing with me, before unironically just whining about how he's not being babied over everything and how hard it is. Yes, Christopher, I'm sure pretending to be the victim is very hard for you. Boy, let's get something straight. Avi was like the only person in your corner on all that stuff, and that's not something to admire him for. Because the only reason he was is because he was far worse to me than you were. He didn't backstab you, he did your dirty work until it blew up in both of your faces. Shut the fuck up. Anyways, that video, which was released on April 18th, detailed a lot of the crazy stuff that was going on in that courthouse call and thereafter. So now it's time to talk about everything that happened after that video's release. Because I didn't show the screenshots from her server, Blaze did in fact come in hot in that server acting all tough, and it's like, bitch, you're not scary. I'm not scared of you. Stop with the act. Beyond that, Blaze's biggest problem seemed to be over the call I used being recorded against their wishes, which makes no fucking sense. Firstly, nowhere in that recording is there any request to not be recorded. And secondly, all calls in the Trial Pit voice channel, which they were in, are recorded, as stated in the rules channel of the goddamn server. I think Blaze was probably getting the courthouse call confused with the one that happened in Heten's server a month later, which was not recorded. Once more, to my infinite sorrow, I wish I had that legal threat on record so badly. That same night, Christopher decided that it'd be a great idea to make this post on his Blue Sky that reads,
I don't want to get into it, but Blaze and I could use some love right now.
I don't know how to describe how gross and manipulative it is to be called out for lying and downplaying the sexual things you did to and around a minor, despite their repeated pleas for you to stop, to then go to your fan base to beg for sympathy from people who don't know what you have done. I don't want to get into it. Yeah, no wonder why, you fucking mistake. This ended up hugely backfiring on Chris as I unblocked him the next day to inform the people in his replies about what he'd done and then quoted him to bring attention to this blatant attempt at manipulating his audience. And that actually caught the attention of VTuber Skitty, Sugar and Spice, who then brought attention to things herself in an attempt to alert mutuals that were following him to disassociate from him, and holy fuck, Skitty, thank you so much, you're so amazing. Love to you. After this, Christopher blocked me, as expected, and hid my replies to the people under his post before just deleting it. That's when he ran to his public community server and claimed again that I'm harassing him, and have been doing so to him and his friends since September. Let's get this straight. I talked about you in the video, didn't say shit until the stream after you decided to be a dumbass in private, and even when you and Blaze tried to start some dumb shit on Twitter before running away to Blue Sky when I put that shit in check, I didn't say anything after. I didn't say shit about you guys until I had more evidence of the stuff you guys were doing behind the scenes that I wanted to bring attention to. Because it was fucking gross, and I don't think y'all should be on the internet like this, frankly. I am allowed to fucking talk about what you have done to me, Christopher, and call out the dumb shit you do in relation to that. that. And I'm allowed to call out your girlfriend for the gleeful part she has played in covering for you and trying to push blame onto people other than you. Fuck off. In that same channel, someone else posts a long few messages detailing their distaste, clearly buying what Chris is selling, and I don't want to put this person completely on blast, and I'll let everyone else decide how much grace they want to show this person, but I do want to show it because it's a nice example of the kind of bullshit I have had to deal with when coming forward about this kind of thing. Firstly, the tone policing goes crazy. How dare a victim be confident in their statements against the person who victimized them? Responding to manipulative public actions and talking about what someone has done to me is not harassment. And me sharing that to you is not an attempt to force you to do anything. There's then misplaced empathy from a completely unrelated and different situation. And lastly, I showed ample evidence of the things I spoke about. Someone then comes in to say that they think the whole tirade could make Chris look worse, which, yeah, it does, and corrects the assertion that I simply don't want to show evidence and don't know what I'm talking about. Christopher claims that in my video I said I didn't want to post the clip because I didn't want to throw someone under the bus, which is entirely not true. Yes, Ponder's name possibly calling attention away from the guy who sexually harassed me was a secondary reason for me not posting the clip, but the main reason has been and will always be that I don't want to post an incredibly humiliating and demoralizing clip of something that happened to me as a kid, because it do nothing. Multiple people acknowledge that the clip exists and that Chris did in it exactly what I said he did, including Chris. The person who made the original long post then deletes it and shortens it to,
"I'm angry and upset that people are hurting those I care about."
Oh my god. Seriously, you are presented with a claim that your acquaintance sexually harassed a minor and desensitized her to sexual content, and your response is, but you're hurting someone I care about. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the logic of a child. Cause here's a question. What about what that person you care about did to a child? And what about how he talks about those actions? Are we so devoid of critical thinking that those questions never pass our brains? And yes, I know Christopher is manipulative and lies a lot, but I'm starting to see why he gets away with it, and it's not solely on him. A useful idiot can go a long way. Chris then held a call in the server to explain his side. This was not recorded, unfortunately, to my infinite sorrow. But I have no doubts that it was full of lies, minimization, and pity-me statements, given how he talked about it in the server just prior to that call. The server was then ethered the next day, to my knowledge. Slay. Yeah, apparently Christopher and Blaze have no problem deleting their servers when they can hide shit. Interesting. So, what about now? Well, 3 days after the video's release, on Easter, the day that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, rose from the dead, Christopher hit my video with a privacy complaint. I know it was him too, since the complaint was timestamped to the exact second I said his real name, which infuriated everyone because now we all know that you're trying to silence me talking about what you've done. I've since learned that this was something suggested to Chris by Justin, Bubbling Brooks, I believe now husband, who is one of the dumbest and most obnoxious men I can think of. Just pointing this out so Christopher can't come out of the woodworks and push blame onto Justin, as Chris has famously pushed blame onto others before. Justin also claims that Chris says he's received death threats because of my video, while also admitting that he has no proof of that claim and didn't even ask for any. The useful idiot strikes again, I see. Anyways, the privacy complaint has been completely ignored, so pack watch? I don't know, both of you get fucked. Beyond that, both Christopher and Blaze have gone quiet publicly, but privately, of course, it's a different story. Mostly, Blaze has apparently been acting like some sad little victim in private who doesn't know what's going on and is scared of being lied to, which I am not religious, but Lord give me strength. Firstly, Justin says that Blaze is apparently telling him that he's the only person to ask her about what she knows about Christopher's actions, which to anyone with half a brain cell here can tell is blatantly unfucking true. Like, Blaze has heard the stream clip of Christopher sexually harassing me, and even admitted to it in the courthouse call, which is also the call where she bitches people out for tagging her and asking if she knows what Chris has done. She also was mad about people coming to her in DMs about my stream and complained about it in her private server. Blaze, I don't know why you're needing to hear this. I personally think you're just lying and know full well that you're spewing nonsense by saying no one's come to you, but you can't bitch people out for coming to you about your boyfriend's actions and then also be surprised and upset when people stop coming to you about your boyfriend's actions. Aside from this, not much is happening, except for Blaze and Christopher trying to worm their way into voice acting and VTuber spaces. I don't know if this is because they're trying to build a group of friends far away enough from everything that they can ignore their past actions and play victim, or if they're trying to recruit bigger names into shielding and protecting them from accountability. All I can say is, please don't let that happen. If you're a VTuber or VA, big or small, or just watch a lot of content from those spheres, please do not let Christopher and his girlfriend ignore what they, and specifically what Chris, have done to me. And for any frequenter of my content who's been so patiently waiting for the announcement I said I planned at the end of my last video, get ready, because it's coming tomorrow. Okay, bye.